powers to participate remotely. The act allows the planning board to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Now, at this time, I will confirm that board members and persons anticipated on the agenda are remotely present and can be heard by stating the following. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Amy Pretsky?
Here.
Bill Pierce?
Here.
Anthony Zaitin?
Here.
And Millie Milton?
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Laurie Connors?
Here.
Bob Federico?
Here.
Great. Let's see. Ground rules for the meeting. For presenters and applicants on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the board or committee will be conducted by roll call vote. No public comment, no executive session. So with that, we will get started with the agenda tonight. First on the agenda, we have discussion of 2024 town meeting zoning related articles, including MBTA multifamily bylaw. With that, Lori, where would you like to start? Do you want to start at the MBTA? Is that easier or?
Well, I defer to Amy. Amy, do you want to launch into the sign bylaw or would you rather me discuss locations for the MBTA?
It's up to you guys. And do you think signs are easier at the beginning? Maybe because we haven't discussed them yet.
Sure. Why don't we
Sure.
start with signs then?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to keep it brief unless people have questions. Let me see. I have to find it. Yeah, I think this is it. Okay. So, can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me see how I can scroll. So over the last 2 design review meetings, maybe it was 3, Lori and Bob and the design review committee met to discuss the sign bylaws. And a lot of it had to do with the downtown after the downtown revitalization. Let me see, I'm just gonna open to my page with my notes. So I can be kind of brief, and if you have any questions, just stop me. We had a couple changes with definitions. Banner signs currently are temporary, but we just put in the word so it's more obvious to people who want to hang banners. We took out the flag definition as a flag isn't a temporary banner. And we added a flag definition, which is a basic definition for flags. And if anyone has questions, we can go back. We can talk about it next week. We added the gasoline canopy sign because we have a few of those. We added monument sign. Monument sign is like a freestanding sign. So like Northborough Oral Surgeons, they have a monument sign. It's on the ground versus on a pole and up higher. But it's out in front of the building. It's not on the building. Another sign we added, a lot of towns call projecting signs blade signs. I can show pictures of any of these signs if you guys would want more of a description. I have a bunch of pictures. So blade sign projects out over the sidewalk off the side of a building. It's usually used if you've been downtown Hudson. They have a lot of them. Roof sign and wall signs had these changes made. They were made 2 years ago. Had to do with signs being attached to roofs. We added sandwich board signs into temporary signs. And you'll see down further that sandwich board signs will be allowed as long as they don't block the sidewalk indoors. So people can get by, even they're ADA compliant, so they can get by. So this wall sign has to do with the roof sign. Does anybody have any questions on the definitions that we changed?
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Okay, the next section we went to is nonconformity and compliance. We added design review for signs in the downtown, except for window signs or small signs. So design review will review the electronic message centers, which aren't even allowed downtown unless it's a municipal office or institution. So design review will look at message centers, wall signs, projecting signs, freestanding signs. And it pretty much has to do with the downtown revitalization. There were a couple things that were added. These are already as part of the bylaw, but we added certain wording to make it easier to read. But these changes aren't anything new. It's just rewording it to make it read easier. This talks about the roof signs, the gasoline canopies that were defined above. No flashing signs. This was down in the industrial district, so we just deleted some of the industrial district things and put them up here.
Amy, can
Bob,
we
you have
back up?
something?
Sure.
If you back up to number 2,
Okay.
signs should not display brand name symbols or slogans of nationally distributed products, except in cases where the majority of the floor area of the premises is devoted to the manufacturer. Okay.
Yep.
Signs should not or shall not, because if you have the word should in there, there is no enforcement, there is no requirement for it.
Okay.
It's
I'll
a
change it to
it's a
shall.
suggestion, not an order.
I'll change it to shall. And what I read in another town is what this is, so if you're a Coca-Cola company, your sign can say Coca-Cola on it because that's what you manufacture and distribute. But if you're another business, you can't have Coca-Cola signs all over your building because it's not part of your, most signs are supposed to have the name of the establishment, the address. Like if you're an antique shop, but it's not supposed to be advertising every single product that's in the building on the, on the window. Actually, part of this bylaw that we added window signs, awning signs, and I wrote it down. We added signs that weren't even allowed before. Let me see. I have it written down. We'll all get to that, but window signs right now are only temporary and they're only supposed to be advertising sales. So we added window signs into the bylaw. So, if you go to downtown Hudson, I'll show a picture later. They have really cute window signs. They have projecting signs and wall signs.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't allow any of that right now in our definitions in our bylaw. So these electronic message centers already are prohibited in these areas, but this just calls it out at the top to make it easier for people to read. And we added in, they can be used for municipal or institutional purposes. That's so we could have a downtown sign like the Lions sign. So I didn't know I added this, Lori, because we have awning signs, but we don't have them allowed anywhere. So I didn't know if we just add it there or we add it down lower. So that's where we talked about awnings, projecting signs, window signs. If anybody has any questions.
Once again, on number 14, plastic signs are prohibited in the downtown business district. What about sandwich board signs? Those are all plastic.
don't know. I said the one in Hudson was made out of wood. You could do plastic signs except sandwich signs.
99% of the sandwich boards are made out of plastic.
Can they make them, I mean, going forward, make them out of the wood?
No,
Okay,
You can do excluding sandwich boards.
Is sandwich board defined in this bylaw?
That I have on my list too. We have them included down below, but I was thinking, Lori, we should probably define sandwich boards. If we go above, up to the top, we have them listed under temporary signs, but we don't have a definition.
right there.
Sure, I'd be happy to add a definition.
Yeah. So there are a couple things. Every time we look at the sign bylaw, it seems so obvious, and then something pops out that, oh, we need to add that.
Hmm.
We feel like everybody knows what a sandwich board is, but maybe they don't. Okay. So we could do plastic signs excluding sandwich boards are specifically prohibited. So those are some of the, and then we went next to construction maintenance of signs. We added in the awning.
Amy, one question.
Sure.
Can you go back up to number 1? Keep up to the upper section. Yeah, keep going up number 1
Okay.
to the advertisements.
Yep.
So does this mean that, let's say, you know, that the mini market in town has a sale on Coca-Cola, that they can't put that sign up?
Right. They're not supposed to right now. We don't allow any window signs in town as of our bylaw today. In every other town, if you read the signs are supposed to be for, you know, it could say Amy's Mini Mart. So you're saying that you're a mini mart, but you're not advertising everything inside the building.
Right. I think I would not want that.
We seem to
Okay.
have that issue downtown, but it's really not supposed to be there. And after we just discussed, as when we were doing this in design review, after this bylaw goes forth and is changed, we might send a letter out to all the businesses just to let them know, you know, what's allowed and what's not allowed. And a lot of it may not even be allowed right now. It's just kind of an update.
one thing to remember is that a letter, if this does pass, a letter will go out. And I will direct all inquiries to the planning board. Also, everything that is up currently will be pre-existing non-conforming.
Mm-hmm.
But how could Coca-Cola signs and everything be pre-existing non-conforming when they're not allowed? Like if a convenience store downtown, like if
Because
today,
you specifically excluded them. Okay, the notion that window signs are temporary signs is not clearly defined in the current zoning bylaws.
it actually is not to, and we define window signs. And then the only place in this whole bylaw that includes window signs, like if you look at the different districts, it includes freestanding wall and directory, but there's no window sign allowed until you get to temporary signs. And that's where temporary signs, talk about window signs. Temporary signs affixed to the inside of a window shall not exceed 30% of the window storefront. And it talks about them being,
No, whatever, we're gonna have to deal with that when that situation arises.
right, yeah. Yeah. Oh, temporary signs are for the purpose of announcing a special day or event and not to exist for more than, we had 56 days. But as part of the discussion we had, like every other town is 30 days and even Bobby mentioned 56 days is harder to enforce. Like 30 days is what the norm is. I don't know why our bylaw had 56 days.
I'm sure somebody had a good reason for it, but I have completely lost it.
Yeah.
I don't know who it's from or who came up with that, or I can't even backwards engineer 56 days.
So a
So-
temporary sign on the inside of a window that's announcing a sale on a product is not even mentioned there. So is that something, or a pricing product?
Well, no, because you're prohibiting it above. That's what I was bringing up.
Well, right
Right,
now,
it's-
temporary signs are only for a special day or event.
Right, but you're prohibiting it if it's something that the business sells. Right? If it's a product that the business sells, you're already saying you shall not do that.
Right.
So there is no temporary sign of a sale because
So does that say
unless it's a
something that-
general sale.
does it say somewhere in the bylaws that signs of pricing and sales are not
No.
allowed on windows?
They're not allowed because if it's not permitted, it's prohibited. So right now, if you go into the downtown, I know these bylaws inside and out right now.
Right, right.
But if you, I only say it because I've done it so many years in a row, but downtown business, right now, we allow a freestanding sign, a wall sign, and a directory sign. That's it. We added projecting and sandwich board.
Right. But if
So
you were to call
we
a
don't
sale
allow a
an
window
event-
sign. If you go to other towns like Hudson or Southborough, it'll say window sign under here. So because we're not allowing a window sign, then everybody who has a window sign right now is non-compliant. And that would
So-
be like every business in town probably.
No, I don't disagree, but where you have a temporary sign is, I'll look at the definition again. You have it for a special event,
Event.
which could be a sale.
Yeah, isn't a sale an event?
That's to me an event.
Yep. So
So
it could
that-
be.
But
So
then you're
where-
not allowed to if it's a product if it's a specific product. Right? So you could do it for a general sale,
special day
25%
or
off
an event.
everything in
No,
the
but it's a
store.
special day, so it's just, you can't have the sign up there permanently, but temporary signs and sound to me like a special thing, so even though you can't have it all year round, if you were doing a sale on Coke products for a week, you could put that up, it seems like, would that not be the
No,
case?
because that's the one
That's
up
what we-
above that says you shall not. That's what I was bringing up.
That's-
Is if the mini mart says we've got a sale on Coca-Cola, they're not allowed to do that.
Which I think I don't prefer that, but the idea is that it's not clear still what can or cannot be done based on this bylaw. You
Okay,
have to look in 3 different places to find out whether or not a temporary sign advertising a sale event is or isn't allowed. It's not clear, I don't think.
I could try to
that
make
the
it
window
clearer.
signs are only allowed under these conditions.
I could try to make it clearer, but when I read other towns, it's like the special events are like Apple Fest next week, we'll be selling our products, or a grand opening. That's what a lot of the temporary signs are for grand openings. It's not,
I understand that, but I still
Yep.
don't think it's clear.
okay.
If you want to, if the sign bylaw should be designed, if we're looking to design it so that we don't have a lot of those, windows taken up with promotions that never come down and begin to look old and faded and tired, that's not the ideal aesthetic, then it's really got to say something pretty clear about what window signs can be, in my opinion.
Most towns have a pretty basic one and they use a table. And I did do a table, but we decided we were changing like little things in the downtown and not to do a new table this year. We thought we'd take everything in this bylaw and put it into a table next year, but we weren't sure if the table would throw everybody off.
Okay,
Can I
all right.
can I
But-
throw
just,
one?
like I
can-
said, I still don't think it's clear, but if we need to.
I can go
tweak it
back to
later on.
window sign, the definition. Window sign is a sign, a picture, or symbol that's placed inside a window. drawn, painted, or etched. So
Right,
that's the
but I'm saying
definition.
temporary, and temporary doesn't really cover that.
And even if you read window sign though, just not to change it, it says not including any part unless customary window display of merchandise or other product.
But what
I
does
can-
temporary say? And Bill, I know you, did you have something too there, Bill? You were saying?
Sorry,
Lori's got her hand up first. I'll let her go first and then I'll go.
okay. Oh, sorry.
Or Lori, what you got?
So as we're working on this, we are also working on design guidelines for signs. And in the sign guidelines, there is a paragraph on window signs. So the window signs, in the guidelines, it does specify what constitutes a window sign. And, the specifics about what can be included and what can't. And it does say that you can't tape something to the window and have that be a window sign. So if you were interested in promoting a sale, you could do so, just not by taping something to the window.
What would you do instead?
So what would you call that then?
So if you had, like, for example, a big display window, you could put it on a easel. Like I've seen that done in stores like the Loft. So it'll be like 50% off everything. And they put it on an easel away from the window. So it's actually not mounted to the window. It's a few feet back from the window.
But is there a specific name for those that are taped on? Because I can see so many ways to work around what is written here that it's not going to, I can see that it wouldn't accomplish what I think the desired outcome might be.
Mhm.
So what we currently have, unless you folks don't want it to be that way, but what's currently written into the sign guideline is that you can't tape anything to the window. That would be prohibited.
So Millie, what could you do to get around that in your mind?
Well, I mean, there are other ways to stick things up, but I guess if you're using any type of adhesion or I've seen people be very clever with their
Yeah, I'm sure.
See, it looks like Rail Trail Pizza has coming soon. That's like probably a temporary special event. They're coming soon. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Bill, did you have something there you had a question or a comment?
Yeah, I'm just going to throw one more curve. What about the Powerball signs, the lottery signs?
Nope.
Those wouldn't be allowed either under this, right?
Right.
So you're going to tell Mass Lottery that they're not allowed to put up their signs in the stores that sell their products?
Yep.
Are they allowed by right? Does the Mass Lottery have, like I know with gas stations, you cannot,
Anywhere that sells it, because they're literally electronic signs that are connected to Mass Lottery. And the Mass Lottery updates the signs automatically.
I mean,
So
you can put
all of those
them-
are going to have to come down as well?
Well, they don't have to be in the window.
Yeah, you can have them inside the door. You can mount signs all over your countertop and, your bulletin board. You just wouldn't be able to put it in your window.
Right. Which is the point, is to draw everyone in to play the lottery.
Well, we
So
gotta
I just
like-
think the way this is written, you're going to have a lot of problems, and the more problems you have with it, like I said before, you get the 1%ers, right? You get enough 1%ers that don't like something in this, and eventually you don't get your 2/3.
I mean, I think it's pretty good overall. I think the idea is that, the town could benefit from having a more cohesive and aesthetic looking downtown area. And I think there's got to be some consistency. I don't think most businesses are heavily reliant on whether or not they have a Coke sales, or I don't want to always say Coke, but a sale, 99-cent sale sign on their plastered on their window. Some of them are, but I'd say most aren't.
And I think, that doesn't, I wish they'd understand, like, the very top of the bylaw says the more signs you have, it just causes clutter. Like, if you put up 50 Coke signs, it's not going to make anyone want to stop anymore, I wouldn't think.
No, generally. Just
And then
slam
if
on
you
the
look at
brakes,
Hudson, like all those, they must have it like a uniform little area down there and they all comply, but
Mhm.
it makes people want to walk and shop there.
Right. It's more relaxing, enjoyable, for sure. Anyways,
Okay, so do we have an issue with it still not being clear and need to do something about it, or?
If anybody wants to take a shot at making something clearer, sending it back to Lori.
So really, are we saying that do we want to allow a temporary sale sign, or do we or since it says no taping things on your windows anyway, they're gonna have to use like some sort of other method to do that. So we don't need to accommodate. So Laurie, is that what you were getting at? You can't tape it to your window either way, so short of being super creative.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a window, you have a display window, then you can always do a display within your window. So like I've particularly seen that at shopping centers like Northborough Crossing,
Mhm.
where they have these giant display windows and then they have like easels, or they might have something hanging from the ceiling
yeah,
within the display window that says, 50% off everything, or
right.
50% off winter wear, or whatever the case might be. So that would be a temporary sign.
Mhm.
So that would not really meet the definition for a window sign.
Bob, you have something there?
Yeah, excuse me. What would be the difference, excuse me, if you had a cardboard sign on an easel 2 feet in from the inside surface of the glass? What is the difference between that situation and taking that same cardboard sign and just leaning it up on the inside of the window facing out?
I don't know, but they have to draw
And
the
how
line
would,
somewhere.
how would it need to be enforced?
Right.
Because I even noticed in Hudson, like someone in one of those pictures, they had like their Snapchat name, but it was on like a easel further back, like Lori was saying. But it's just not stuck up in the window. So maybe it limits it, because how many easels will you place 2 feet out from the window where people will be tripping and like, or you can hang it down, but maybe it's just, nothing's perfect, but they're just trying to somehow get a hold of the amount of signs that are taped to the front of the window.
Yeah, but I think, again, to Bob's point, is that you don't have to tape it to the window. You can just lean it up on the windowsill. I've seen plenty of those, whether it's at a convenience store or, some gas stations. And those are also unsightly.
Laurie, do you have something?
Yeah, I suppose, window signs, so signs that are taped to the window are definitely blocking light, and they're blocking the view into the interior of the storefront. Whereas if they're set back a foot or two, it's just not as obtrusive, in my opinion.
Okay. Anyway,
Okay.
moving on.
We'll move on. We'll try it and we'll see what happens. I'll be ready to make amendments on the floor. I'll have 20 of these printed out that I can cross out things.
We also have the public hearing coming up.
Yeah.
So there is also, there's plenty of opportunity. Next meeting, we're meeting with the ZBA. The meeting after that is a public hearing, so there's plenty of opportunities to collect feedback. And if everybody hates certain elements, then
Right,
clearly that's an indication that the verbiage has to change.
Mm.
right. And what's funny though is like nobody comes to our public hearing, but they come to town meeting.
With opinions.
Right. But I think only one person or two ever speak at our meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll move forward. So we added the awnings.
Well, maybe that's also, I mean, if the planning board members aren't behind it, knowing how difficult it was to get the sign bylaw through a couple of years ago. You know, maybe that's not the battlefield we want to die on, you know, whether they're taped to the window or whether they're not taped to the window.
Right, right.
And this bylaw doesn't even say taped or not, does it? It's only in the guidelines.
Guidelines.
But right now, if we literally wanted to not do this bylaw at all, could go to all the businesses in town and have them take everything off the windows, because as this is written today, there are no window signs allowed on any windows.
Mm.
So I thought we're at least trying to bring some of it into compliance. So we went back to the signs in residential districts. No internally illuminated signs, but externally was permitted.
I haven't seen all of them. There's a few that were.
In the business section, since we added numerous more signs like window signs, awning signs, freestanding signs, projecting signs, we did what other towns did, where you got 2 signs per business. And I could show you Hudson again, but that's pretty much what they do. So if you're a downtown business, you would probably have, unless you had a front lawn, but if you were right on the sidewalk, you would probably have a projecting sign, a wall sign, and we didn't include window here because window would be a third sign, but we didn't include it as 2 of the choices. So you could have a wall sign, a blade sign, and a window sign. Or if you're further back, you could have like a freestanding sign, a wall sign, and a window sign. But that's what we saw in other towns, or else you would have a freestanding sign, an awning sign, a blade sign, a wall sign. Because we're adding in more signs. So right now, what's allowed is a freestanding sign. And we added the address in and took out changeable copy space. And this is in the downtown. There
Mhm.
aren't any signs downtown with changeable copy space except for gas stations. So we figured since there aren't any right now, we'll take it out. But this is the only district we took out the changeable copy sign, because I know in Business East, Business West, there are businesses who have it. We added in the wall sign. Oh no, the wall sign was there. Projecting sign, sandwich boards, directory. So directory isn't included in the count either. So that's what we did. We added sandwich and directory. And I was wondering, do we add awning sign in there? And the major change was when we get to the highway business, the Northborough Crossing follows highway business, and a lot of their signs, they ask for variances of up to 200 square feet. So we changed the number from 10% of the front wall. I wrote front wall. I didn't know if we had to, Lori. If it was wall size, would they use all 4 walls? Or it's supposed to mean 10% of the front wall size or 250 square feet. And that's because certain stores are big and certain stores are small. So you wouldn't want a small store with 250 square feet. But 10% of the wall size seems to be what other towns do.
There are some businesses that are located on a corner.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't want to specify front wall size because they might want to put it on the side wall.
What I was just trying to, and I just thought of this today, is could somebody add up all 4 sides and then take 10% of that? Because it says 10% of the wall size, or it's just the wall that the sign is on.
It should be the wall that the sign is on. Do
Does
you
this
think that's inherent, Bob?
Well, I did have a little,
It's not specific, excuse me, it's not specifically specified in the language, but I would typically take 10% of the wall that the sign is going to be mounted to.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think we have to make it specific? Do you think there'll be a problem if we don't?
Well, 10% is a pretty specific size.
Yeah. But it says of the wall size. I didn't know if they'd take all 4 walls.
I would assume that it would be 10% of the wall that the sign is being hung on.
Mm. I just didn't know if we had to spell that out.
I think that doesn't hurt. Lori, if you can think of one way to add that in and make it sound,
Maybe 10% of the applicable wall size? Or,
10% of the wall on which the sign is affixed.
yeah, something like that.
either
Okay.
one of those sounds good to me.
I can do that.
So a lot of this wasn't changed. We changed the temporary signs to 30 days. And if anybody wants to think of a way to tweak this, that makes more sense to them. And then a couple of things in the industrial was deleted because they were already up above. And then historical signs and markers are permit not required. So if like CPC is putting up a sign on the aqueduct, they don't have to come for a permit. Or do you permit those, Bob, or no? You wouldn't need to. They seem to be pretty, they seem to put up a nice sign.
Whether it's a nice sign or not, we have something in the current bylaws that's for municipal use or something like that. It's not require a permit.
Okay. So even if this isn't in there, it doesn't matter.
Right. But it's good to illustrate it.
Yeah. I wonder what I just noticed now is it says 10 permit not required. For some reason on this bylaw, Lori, we're missing 1 through 9. We didn't add anything? Or did you just put in the change?
Yeah, I was trying to simplify it.
Yeah.
So when I do it for the town meeting article, I'm going to eliminate all of the bullets that are not changing. Just because they're not going to wanna. I mean, it's already a lengthy enough document as is. So they're not going to want the entire bylaw in there. They're just going to want the changes. So under definitions, I'm only going to include those definitions that are changing. And then the renumbering. So the rest of them are going to be omitted.
So do you have to include every renumbered one? I actually saw one town in their bylaw when they went to the warrant. It said at the top that it would be renumbered. So they didn't have to include everything that was renumbered.
I can do that. I've done it both ways.
Yep. I guess if town council said we can do that and leave everything out and say it's going to be renumbered, it would probably, like you say, take out some of the extra stuff.
Hey, Amy?
Yep.
So I'm thinking here, going back to the window signs, what if we treat the window signs like we do the wall signs and we say you can have one sign no more than 10% of the window?
So there are a lot of businesses that have multiple window signs. So if you can think about like a hair salon or like a massage parlor. So what they'll do is say they have 4 windows. So then on the bottom of each window, they might have a different service that they provide.
Mhm.
And the same with like doctor's offices, or, you know, it could be like acupuncture, you know, whatever.
Right. But if we did 10% of each window,
But they would be multiple window signs. So it wouldn't just be one window sign, it would be
but it would be
multiple.
one window sign per window.
We had a big discussion of this at design review. Do we do 10% for window or do
Because
all
what you're trying to
combined
get rid
window
of,
sign?
yeah, you're trying to get rid of, the window full of signs.
So
Right.
in some cases, what I've seen is like in the design review committee meeting, I showed an example of a accountant. So they didn't have a wall sign and they didn't have a projecting sign. All they had was window signs. So they just had like the name of the business arching in the window. And then down below, they had the services that they provided. So it's similar to this one, the rail trail. So in this case, they had the arching name of the business, and then down below, you see how they have, words underneath.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it looks really tasteful, like it does in this picture. So
Mhm.
I think it's harder to regulate the window signs. So as long as they don't exceed, say, 10% of the window area, then they should, in my opinion, they should be able to have however many words they want to have on there. Like, it's not unusual for people to etch in the
Yeah, I think if it's
business
etched, it's one
hours.
thing. Yeah. Etched isn't bad, it didn't look like. It's when it's just those taped on signs, they get old and faded and block the sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
And we did add window signs are allowed in the business district only. All combined window signage is 10% of the total glass area. But if you think it's gonna throw it off by not 10% per
Oh,
window.
so you can have, right. So getting back, the original thing is, it's not about the window sign. You can have a window sign about your stuff. It's when you're selling like Coke or Budweiser or whatever else, like those are the signs you can't have. So I guess you would never really etch in, probably not Budweiser into your window. So I don't think that would help.
And I think what Bill's saying maybe is with window signs here, we allow up to 10%. So that might be enough and just leave off this, because are you going to use your 10% with all that stuff? Are you going to put like Coke sign all over your building and use up your 10%? Whereas like Bill's saying, this might cause problem at town meeting. Maybe we just leave it off and say, okay, if you want your 10% to be the lottery and cigarettes, then then that's all you can have. I don't know. But this is kind of what our bylaw says, but not in the same wording. Like only signs that are advertised, call attention, or indicate the person occupying the premises or the business transacted thereon. So if like you're a pizza place, but you're not like a Coke place.
I
Or
mean, I
that
guess how do we want our downtown to look as a board? And how does the town want it to look? If we want to jam up the windows with Coke ads and Budweiser ads, then so be it. I personally don't like that. I'm not looking for a way to figure out how to allow that. I think it's personally reasonable. I think it's perfectly reasonable to have things about your business, like types of hair services or stuff like that. So I don't know if maybe I would hope the tape thing would solve it a little bit, because that's really where it kind of starts to look
Right. Correct.
messy.
even our definition right now, a sign, picture, symbol that is placed. So I guess it can be taped. Is that
No, it
placed?
can't.
Yeah.
Drawn, painted, etched.
Yeah, no, I think that if we keep it at 10% and they want to use it up with stuff like that, that fits the definitions.
Maybe with the letter that we send out too, we could send out the design guidelines for signs to
Yeah.
give people ideas. Because I think if they all come together, it'll just make it's more for like, say, yeah, this is all part of the downtown revitalization. What do we want the downtown to look like? And I think the nicer the display, the window is, like, the more people who would possibly shop there. I don't know. I think where I took that line, it was from other towns that have gone through the same thing, like Shrewsbury is going through a downtown revitalization. That's probably where I grabbed that. But I saw it in a whole bunch of different towns. Okay. But we can think about it. I'm sure we'll talk about signs again before town meeting. If anybody has anything else they want to bring with the ZBA, I'm sure they'll have questions.
Okay, well, we'll have our public hearing in ZBA, and then any other comments or questions on this one?
And if anybody has good suggestions, definitely share them. Any way we can make this, less controversial. Who knew a sign would be so controversial?
And then, do you have highway business, Amy? Is that you?
I do
or
have that
Lori?
too.
Why don't we just jump into that?
Okay. Okay, so we had discussed doing highway business Southwest instead of highway business to, I think everybody saw the email from town council saying there couldn't be a footnote to, ask that the businesses outside of Route 9 cannot be zoned with adult services.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just got sent out today, but what I did was highway business Southwest. And I read through the whole bylaw, and there were only 6 places I saw that needed to be changed. Because if you go into like the groundwater section, the parking space quantities, the non-conforming area, that all bases their discussion on whether it's a residential, commercial, or industrial use. So if you're a commercial use, you can be downtown, business east, business west, highway business. You wouldn't have to change anything because highway business and highway business Southwest are both commercial uses because they're not industrial.
You might want to follow that up with the word use behind that. Residential, commercial, industrial use, not the specific.
Oh yeah, I must have left it off. But this is not going to be in the bylaw. This is just for my explanation to you
Mhm.
and the board.
Oh, okay. Never
This
mind.
is
then.
just, yeah, and if I go to town meeting, like the only things I had to change, so we would take out all this other stuff. The only areas I had to change was the classification of districts. So we had to add it on the list. And then the table of uses had to add in a new row. And we could, if you guys want to, for the next meeting, we could go down and see what you wanted to allow in the highway business. I took out adult uses, but I thought, this might be over where the baseball area is or Kimball Farm someday. I added assisted living facilities as a yes. Like, is there oh, here's Bob's hands up.
Bob, you got something?
It's just a question. Does this new district have anything to do with the MCDOD, which is it's an overlay district? It's a commercial overlay district in that section of town.
Oh, the Northborough Crossing? Is that what the Northborough Crossing overlay is?
I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I think
Yeah,
it's in that area.
But
Is
I
this in
don't think
addition to that, or you're replacing the MCDOD?
well, I think Lori, when we talked, the MCOD is going to stay, right? This would be just like the baseball area, Kimball Sand.
Well, originally when I was proposing so when we first talked about it, it would be the entirety of the industrial district. And then there were concerns about adult entertainment. So then I pared down the highway business district to only include the gravel pit and the baseball, New England baseball. So the other uses that are currently located within that area are already compliant with the highway business district, with the exception of the storage facility and the gravel pit. So all the other uses would mesh. So if you want, we could just eliminate the industrial district altogether. So pretty much the parcels that are included within the industrial district that aren't the gravel pit and aren't the baseball are Avalon, Northborough Crossing, and the medical offices, and a couple of other like that landscape place across from 333 Southwest Cutoff. There's a used car dealer. I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay.
To me, I thought maybe we just use the properties along Route 20, because I felt if we went up to Northborough Crossing, like that overlay district has such specifics. Like I hated to dig down into that. I was just changing the things along Route 20 that are now industrial. And I don't know how far the overlay district goes. I don't know where the map is for that. I was just thinking it was like the baseball fields, the dentist, Kimball's
The limits of the overlay district are the entirety of the industrial district that's on Southwest Cutoff.
Bob, what made you ask the question? Were you wondering about nonconformity with the other overlay, or what were you thinking there?
My question was the confusion that's going to arise when you've got a highway business district, you've got an industrial district, you've got an HBSW district, and you have an MCDOD. That's a lot of alphabet soup to try to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you need to, you know, take that slug of land and give it one specific designation and get rid of all the other ones. Because if you've got 3 or 4 different, you know, district identities, you know, and some of it's an overlay, you know, that's as clear as mud.
Yeah.
We could get rid of the overlay. I tried to match the overlay. But the overlay doesn't really allow a lot of uses because it's more for the shopping up there.
The overlay allows a lot of underlying uses.
I could go back and double check. And I know the signs for the overlay were
Highway business.
yeah. But I was wondering if along Route 20 they should be more industrial, because in the highway business the signs could go up to what was 150 square feet, which is really big. Where in the industrial business, like the dentist right there.
Well, aren't you trying to take the industrial uses out of that section of Route 20?
Yes, but I'm just trying to decide on which sign bylaw to go with. Because they are industrial right now, the signs were done to match the industrial, not the highway. The highway's a lot bigger. But, I mean, I just sent this out today so we can look at it and talk about it. But for the density and dimensional regulations, I match the industrial because that's what's there right now. Do you know if the overlay, did that keep the same density and dimensional?
I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
Wait, what was our original purpose for this bylaw? Now I've lost track of the.
Well, because we have the industrial underlying. So no matter what the overlay is, you have industrial underlying. So now you have all these commercial businesses and restaurants, but there could be 1 or 2 outliers that all of a sudden are going to do an industrial business that now doesn't fit in that area anymore. Because everything else is commercial.
Okay.
So we've been talking about it for years to get rid of the industrial underlay and make it commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lori, do you have something there? Oh, you're on mute, Lori, just.
Geez, sorry.
Okay.
The density and dimensional regulations for the major commercial development overlay district are the same as they are for the highway business district.
Okay, that's what I did. So I put in the highway business district. Highway business southwest, just so we could get rid of, I didn't want to spread the adult uses down further down Route 20. So I tried to take the same thing. But if you want to put it all the way up onto, Wegmans Shopping Plaza, I'd actually like to go through, because I know with the overlay district, it lists specific businesses, not everything that's in the highway business. So to go through and check. Make
Okay,
sure.
we didn't just remove industrial and change the whole district to commercial. Because
Well, it
of the,
depends on the map. I guess Lori would make a map and the map would show what we're changing. So it could be the whole industrial area and get rid of the overlay,
Mm-hmm.
or it could be just the area outside of Wegmans and Avalon, the rest of the industrial area that hasn't been developed yet.
I would
Okay.
recommend just changing the entire area. Otherwise, I think it's too confusing.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree.
okay,
Okay.
and so we could change the entire area
Mhm.
to this
I think
highway business? No, we don't want that.
it'd have to be Highway Business Southwest or
Highway
something,
Business
other name.
So it
And,
no
and,
longer
and,
be,
and then I would delete the major commercial development overlay district.
and there's no consequence to that, all the businesses still fit within whatever we have for HBSW?
I haven't had time to look at Amy's proposal, but as
Oh,
long
okay.
as all the uses that are currently allowed in the highway business district are also allowed in this new one, then there shouldn't be a negative consequence for the existing businesses.
I
Okay,
think the only thing I did was add in a couple other things, like I added in assisted living, like maybe somebody wants to build one of those, or is there a problem with adding those?
Well, maybe we want to add in that storage, since it currently exists. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a problem use.
Well, I remember when Kathy deleted the storage units because everybody was doing storage units and we had so many in town. And it
Yeah.
wasn't even my idea or anybody on the board. It was Kathy. She said, we have so many storage units and they're actually probably, I don't know how they bring in taxes compared to if you had like a shopping mall or a restaurant or I don't know. It was before my time, but I asked her and she said, we have so many of them in town that they outlawed them. So I don't know if I'd want to bring them back in.
So just a quick question, the Avalon complex that's up there, how is that, like if we were to get rid of that overlay, is that part of the overlay and do we have to now make an Avalon type of building accessible to that entire area?
That was a 40B. So
Oh,
it
that's a 40B.
wasn't
Okay.
allowed in the underlying zoning, and it wasn't allowed in the major commercial development overlay either.
Okay,
So you wouldn't have to change any of the housing stuff.
right. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I did just send this out today. So, you know, I expected everybody to take time and go through it. But I did read through the whole bylaw, and to add a new district, I only had to change 5 areas. The use table, the density table, that one at the top that it just added the district. And then there's the density table. And then there were a couple errors in the site design and parking design. And these right now, Lori, I was going to have you check, but we don't even have highway business in either of these. So our site designs section doesn't even say like your business has to face frontwards and you have to screen the trash and So I thought highway business should be thrown in there and the highway business southwest.
Laura,
But
you
you,
have something?
Yeah, I was just curious. I noticed that pretty much all of the uses in this new district would be permitted by the planning board. Whereas a lot of them in the highway business district are permitted by the ZBA.
yeah, I only did that because it used to be a planning board. It was all industrial. But if you want to, that was something I was going to talk about. Do people want to have it under the planning board or the ZBA? Years ago, when I started, there was a big war of planning board versus ZBA. Who wants which section? And this was the industrial area that the planning board had been permitting. And we would have to do the site plan review for it anyways. So would we want to do it or would they want to do it? That's
Oh, we have to
something-
do, well, whoever has a site plan, I feel like, I don't feel like, we shouldn't send them back and forth between the boards.
Well, we usually
the-
do a technical review and then the ZBA,
Oh, you just meant a technical review, not the site plan review.
we do a technical review of the site plan.
Well, the
Right.
way it works is, the only uses that are definitely yours for site plan review are the industrial. Otherwise, whoever does the special permit does the site plan review. So it's a special permit use that governs. So if it were ZBA, they would do the site plan approval. If it was planning board, special permit, it would be the planning board would do the site plan approval. So they go together.
Got it. Board members, what do you think about, what are your thoughts on that?
About who should, what board it should go to?
Right, for the permits.
I don't know if I have an opinion on that one.
I only kept it because it was an industrial use before and I said, well, you know, we'll have nothing left to do.
Yeah.
This actually, a hospital isn't allowed in highway now, so but I added it in. I thought people would go through this and see. I was trying to think of things, you know, more uses up near Route 9.
I wonder if you just want to split the workload.
Millie or
That's
Bill, do you have
reasonable.
an opinion on that one? On
I mean,
the-
that sounds reasonable to split it. I think we've done that before.
Yeah, the question is, how do you split it, right?
Yeah,
Right.
what's the delineation?
Right.
Right.
Is it the site size? Is it the? You know, I'm not sure that golf courses is really something we want in that area.
Is that
We
up
had
further?
golf courses on
That.
there as PB, right there.
Right, because they were allowed before and it used to be a driving range where the baseball is. So could it be a mini golf course now? If someone came in and said, I want to make those baseball fields into a mini golf course?
I
Might
think
be
there was
different.
mini golf in
Yeah.
that area before.
It was up on Route 9, yep.
Yeah. There was.
But I
mini
don't know
golf.
if that would be called outdoor recreation or golf course. I don't know. I mean, there's probably no room to put a golf course up there.
Unless somebody bought multiple properties.
Yeah. So we could put no, or we could just leave it by a special permit in case someone comes with an idea.
Maybe they'll do a frisbee golf course. Urban frisbee.
And I don't know, do we want a hospital? Right now, highway business says no for hospital, and I added it in on Route 20. If someone wanted to do a little hospital. I don't know. But I kept it as a planning board only because we're giving up everything and we'll have nothing to do. And the continuing care retirement community was a no. I guess I have to go read the definition of what that is, but I thought maybe that wouldn't be a bad use up there.
No, I agree with that.
Lori, why did the planning board get the industrial, uses? Well, I mean, why, in the industrial district, why was the planning board assigned the board for special permits? Do you know, was it due to land size, I guess maybe to Bill's point before, or what was it they made it planning board?
I don't know the history. I suspect that maybe the planning board wanted more control over industrial uses.
Mm.
Oh, Bob, do you
And
know?
that's
You have
why
your
it
hand up.
was, oh, Bob knows.
Yeah, in the 7 years I've been here, there have been more controls in the industrial district placed by the planning board, because the planning board wanted to be able to control the uses and the traffic and who's going in the industrial areas. So over the past, I'd say 5 or 6 years, what was allowed by right now
Ah,
is
you're right.
planning board special permit. So what you're encountering is a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay,
So I don't know, I just expected that maybe everybody can go home or look at these and then we could come back and talk about what you
but
think. we
so
should
Amy,
do.
what's at the top of this? What's the final column? Is that industrial there?
This is highway business, this is industrial.
But so then Bob, what about things like, in the time I've been here, we never messed with a whole bunch of these that have planning board special permits. Do we know why these were planning board? Like, I know brew pub, actually, we did add a microbrewery, so it's not a good example, but if Amy, you scroll to other areas.
I think before my time, there was a big battle between the planning board of the ZBA, and that's how it was split in 2009. It was
Oh, okay.
like the planning board got industrial and the ZBA would get commercial.
Okay,
I remember there being a discussion when I first started. There was still discussion back and forth on who should do what. And I look at other towns and it's all random too. Like some it's the ZBA, some it's the planning board, some even have selectmen doing some of the zoning.
Hmm.
So I think it's preference by town on who you want to do the permitting.
Okay, so maybe when we have our joint meeting too, we can also figure out like what is a good way to divide the workload. Oops.
Yeah.
Well, is there any reason why you couldn't just leave it the way it is? Just to split up the workload? Does it
Just
matter?
track it with,
What do you guys mean by split it? Like we do this
Hmm.
and they do the rest of that?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I don't think there's any. Because then we would do the permit and the site plan.
I think what I was referencing is there are certain uses that you would permit, and there are certain uses that the ZBA would permit. So like maybe you would be in charge of the, the more concerning uses. Like, for example, auto repair shop or auto body shop. But maybe the ZBA would be in charge of like drive-through food service or, outdoor commercial recreation, kind of like that.
To
But
me, it kinda
whatever,
seemed easier by zone, like if we have all the industrial and we have all the highway business southwest. I don't know,
it might be a nightmare for people to untangle.
Mm-hmm.
if you split it out.
well, if the ZBA is used to looking at, for example, hotel, motel, and conference center. They are the permitting authority in most of the town. So chances are they would have experience reviewing those type of applications. So it might make sense to assign that to the ZBA, whereas something else, if it's a combo where you're both reviewing it, then, that might be something that you take. Just a suggestion, or if you just have a burning desire You know, you're really concerned about this particular type of use.
Well, some
But you're
things
not
we-
so concerned about
Yeah.
another type of use. Maybe give that one to the ZBA and you keep the other one.
But like some of these I see here, we've added over the years where we specifically put the planning board in that district as the permitting authority, didn't we? Did we do that on purpose? Or we actually didn't define the permitting authority? It was just by the zone. It was probably just by the zone.
Yeah, I think we got, duplexes.
No, for
Um,
example, if you look at like breweries, what else do we add? Outdoor, we've added commercial recreation outdoor. That's a new one from planning board edition over the last couple of years, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
We just tracked by district, not by, we
Yeah,
just
all
happened
went
to
down
say industrial.
industrial.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't disagree, Lori, that there's like certain things we care about more. I just wonder if it's a nightmare for the applicants to be like, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a nightmare for staff. Or maybe you start to like tinker with what your use is, depending on which board you want to avoid.
And I feel like for the, more concerning ones too, like we're elected, so our feet are held to the fire. And I don't know, I guess their feet are held to the fire too. I don't know. I was just trying to keep some of it so we would have something left to do. And since we were in charge of this district before, we would just keep this district. Because I think we know how to permit a restaurant. or
Yeah, I
any-
don't think that. We're familiar with the district.
Right.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I do too.
And it's really a small district. We're not going to get that many applications anyways. It's a couple properties.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like the ask here is for us to look through and for what's changed from a no to a yes, to figure out if we actually want that.
Yep.
Okay.
Like here, like commercial greenhouse. I don't know. Do we want one there because it's all shops so then I put it by special permit, but we could do a yes. There were a couple ones that I changed, but it's a no in industrial and it's yes in highway, so so I just put in special permit. But they're really the ones that are more contentious, like wholesale trade might be more contentious, so I put it by special permit. But then there were ones that I thought would be less contentious, so I added it to a Y. Like, I don't know, do you think we need special permits for brew pubs, microbreweries, or distilleries? Like, or can they be just allowed by right with a site plan? Are they that different from a restaurant? So actually, I made those yeses to make it easier up there if someone wanted to right off of Route 9 to open up a something.
Oh, right, because those are allowed by the overlay, those restaurants over there, right?
Yep.
So, oh, highway business wasn't going to include Wegmans. That's why it's different. I see. But now if we make that whole area, we're not like carving out a piece. It's like the whole entire area. We would need restaurants to be included because they're there.
I say, Bob, you have your hand up?
Oh, Bob,
sorry.
sorry.
That's you, Carrie, sorry.
No, go
Sorry,
ahead.
if I may, the Cold Harbor Brewing Company on Otis Street in Westboro
Mm,
is wildly successful,
mhm.
and the parking calculation is catastrophic.
Right.
So I would suggest if you're gonna do a brewery, microbrewery, distillery, or something like that, that's gonna be really popular, you get some really good teeth, if you will, in the site plan to handle parking. Because they're parking on the grass, they're parking in the street. You know, and I don't know how they calculated the parking demand for that property. But if it's gonna happen in Westboro and something like that comes to Northboro, the phone's gonna ring off the hook.
I think we're gonna have to update our parking. Because I think we had 3, because we thought people would go together, so we picked like, I forget what we picked, but we undercut the parking, like maybe we wanna add to the parking for the brewery in our parking bylaw.
Well,
Yeah.
I know that both Cold Harbor And if you go out to Charlton,
Mm-hmm,
they've had to rebuild their parking lot a couple of times.
right.
Because they were parking on the access road and, they've had a devil of a time with traffic. But, as they expand the physical plant and the eating and drinking area, I mean, I think you've got to, instead of figure people coming in a vehicle, you should think maybe one or two people coming in a vehicle.
Mm, right.
Because in the afternoons, it's all contractors up there and, and none of them carpool.
No. When I went, I had to park down at the Verizon store down by whatever that Moe's is. We had to walk down the street.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
3 buildings down. And if you park across the street at the car lot, they tow everybody.
Huh.
Yeah, it's packed.
Yeah.
Oh, Lori, do you have something to add there?
I would just loosen up, the educational use non-exempt.
Mm-hmm.
So normally that's something that doesn't have to go through zoning at all. It's a Dover amendment use.
Right.
If it's non-exempt, then still, it tends to be a pretty low impact use. So I would suggest changing that to a by right use instead of a special permit use. And then with the kennel, kind of the same thing. I mean, this is a highway, so it's not like you're worried about residential butters. Well, you have Avalon, but that's pretty much it. So I would also recommend possibly changing that to a by right use.
There are some condos down there too, but I don't know if there's any land left near them. I didn't find the educational uses.
Oh, right
just-
up top. You were right where
Oh.
you were. If you keep going up a little bit. Right there.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Back to the brewery, I think we do have to change it in our parking regulations, like, because even if the site plan, we can't force them to add parking if our parking regulations are off, I think. If there's not enough for a brewery, if we ever get one.
Mm,
Okay, so everybody, if they want to go through these, there might be others. And then there's industrial uses.
Thanks for being so
the-
thorough. This is a lot of work.
And then the trickiest area is the site design, 7.09.020. But like I was mentioning before, we didn't have highway business or highway business Southwest in there. So those are all the standards that say you have to, face the building forward, you have to screen your trash. But I thought even on the highway business, we might want some sort of site design regulations. But maybe Lori and Bob will have a chance to look at that. And then signs. I didn't really care if it was signs were industrial or highway business, but I found the ones in the highway businesses were on Route 9. So the signs were really, really big. And did we want really, really big signs along Route 20? Like
No.
the signs on Route 20, we allow like 42 square feet plus an extra 20 square feet if it's an electronic sign. So that's 62 square feet. But if you're on Route 9, you can have up to 150 square feet. And I don't know how big a 150 square foot sign is, but I know that dentist on Southwest Cutoff, his sign probably falls the 62 square feet, and it seems like a pretty good sign for that area.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you might get someone small in there, like, I don't know, Amy's cell phones, and I decide, you know what, I'm allowed to put a 150 square foot sign in there. I'm gonna do it. I don't know, but we can. Everybody can look at that too, if they wanted. And then design review we had talked about last time. I didn't have any changes. I did
Okay,
have a couple
so-
changes to a couple other ones.
If we are, in this case, we would remove the commercial, the MCD, whatever it is, the commercial
Yeah.
overlay.
Hmm.
Do we need to do anything? What do we need to do for that? Just strike it entirely, or how would we deal with that as part of this bylaw?
I would strike it in its entirety.
Okay.
Before the next meeting, I just want to review the overlay, because I was only, when I did this, I was only looking at what's left on Route 20. I just want to make sure by striking the overlay, it doesn't screw up something up in Wegmans area. Because I didn't read that part.
Okay.
But it makes sense to do. Do you want me to keep going down this list and we'll go to the MBTA? Or do you want me to?
Is this the end of your draft or?
Yep, that's the end of it.
Oh, okay.
There were 5 things that had to change in the bylaws. Or 6.
Okay. So what are you suggesting to go onto the MBTA?
No, like these other ones are small, so I wonder if we finish these.
Oh, what?
I did have a change to another one. I didn't know if you
Okay.
want me to share while
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I'll just go down to it. It was we had the site design standards where it talked about building materials. And I was gonna ask Lori, in the bylaw right now, it says building placement and orientation, but there are actually already some letters like letter D and C that have to do with the building design. So I was wondering if we just add building placement, design, and orientation, because like the material type doesn't have to do with the placement or the orientation. And if there's a better word than design.
That's fine.
And then I highlighted vinyl because people weren't sure if we should allow it or not. So I didn't know if anyone wanted to continue the discussion. Or maybe we just, I don't know.
I don't really know where I've seen a vinyl building. So I don't think we really need to add vinyl
Prohibited. You don't think like,
for the building finish materials.
none of the buildings downtown are vinyl? What did that woman do next to Bank of America? Is that vinyl or no? And not that it matters. I was just curious, but I don't even know what it is.
She used a cement board siding.
Okay.
But it is important to remember that almost all of your trim boards and a
Mhm,
lot of you, for the corner boards, your soffits, your mud sills, and a lot of your surrounds for windows
mhm,
is using AZEK, which is a vinyl product.
mhm,
I don't know if I would consider that as the primary finished surface,
mhm,
because the primary finished surface is typically the body itself of
mhm.
the building. But there are, as I said before, there are several vinyl products that don't look like your standard, 4-inch strip type clapboard. You've got board and batten that's out there. You've got scalloped, like Nantucket shingle style that's out there. You've got shake style, and those are all available in a vinyl based product. So my fear is that you're prohibiting a potential design element.
What about high quality vinyl?
Well, architecturally distinct.
Do you want me to
I
write
don't know.
that? I don't know how to word it. Like,
I
how do you
wonder
tell-
if we should just leave it out,
Yeah, leave it out.
because there are so many good products these days
Mhm.
that, we might shoot down the whole bylaw. by not allowing vinyl.
Well,
Okay.
so I don't feel super strongly about this item. I think the last time we talked, we said if we put it in there, they could always request a waiver. I don't know. I don't know how about the board feels about it. Any strong feelings on this one?
I do not.
Or do I delete it and just leave metal or fiberglass? Finished surface shall not be allowed and leave the vinyl off. And then
Yeah,
is that what
Amy-
you're thinking, Lori?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So just go with the metal or fiberglass.
Any board member feel strongly otherwise?
I think it's fine to leave it off.
Okay.
I'm
And then
fine with
last
the
time-
next change, eliminating the multi-story, that's fine.
Yeah. And then for the next section, this maker space, I was thinking of taking this whole, because it was my idea originally. I was thinking of just deleting the whole thing because I did go into, researching maker space, and a lot of it, it's pretty neat, but it's industrial. So do we go through right now and add it into the industrial zone in certain places? Or do we just leave it and maybe do it in the fall when we have more time? Like,
And what were we trying to add this to again? What was the,
it had to do with MBTA housing. The
Right.
state recommended adding makerspace, but a lot of the maker spaces do have saws, and so if you were living upstairs, you really wouldn't want people with really loud tools.
maybe we get ourselves settled with the MBTA first? Sorry, Bill, did I cut you off? Do you have something there?
Nope, nope. Yeah, but I think, Amy might be onto something, putting it in the industrial,
Mhm.
right? That way we can at least say we have it.
So we could
Hmm.
add it, and then we'd have to add it up here. Makerspace under industrial. But actually, we'd have to have a whole different bylaw and list the use again, because this is under, I don't think we could combine it.
You could put it under fabrication in industrial uses in the industrial district. Just take the fabrication definition, expand it.
To include maker spaces? I'm looking for. So that would be under light manufacturing, right?
Hmm.
Or we could just have a separate line as a maker space.
I'm for making it as easy as possible. In other words, expanding the definition for fabrication. Because if we make it a separate use, then we have to come up with parking requirements for it. So if we can slide it in under fabrication, I think I like that idea.
Fabrication must be under light manufacturing,
Yes.
because we don't have fabrication in the list.
I think it's like fabrication, processing, things like that. But it's only, I think, it's like simple electric tools, I think is specified in light manufacturing, so it would actually kind of fit there.
Mhm. But it wouldn't stand out in the use table as like makerspace, like if you have makerspace here, somebody looks down and says, oh, I can do a makerspace. If someone comes in and wants to do a makerspace, are they gonna go read the definition for light manufacturing? Maybe.
So I guess then we decide, do we want it to happen at this town meeting or the next available town meeting? So if it's to add it separately, maybe we hold it, and if it's to slide it in light manufacturing, we could figure it out now.
What
Does the
you
board
could
have any-
do
Okay,
is in your definitions under makerspace,
Mhm.
what you could do is see also light manufacturing. So in the definitions, it's pointed to the light manufacturing use category.
Yeah, okay, that's a good idea.
Okay, and then we don't have, could we still add it to the use table?
It would
No.
be where the light manufacturing is.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so board members, do you wanna sneak it in or slide it into light manufacturing or hold it for its own spot next time around?
Yeah, I think that works.
Which one, which option?
The putting it into the definitions and then doing C light manufacturing.
Okay,
Yeah.
Millie, Anthony, you good with that?
Agree.
Yeah, I think that works. Trying to think if there's other options. I couldn't really
Yes.
come up with anything.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm making everybody dizzy.
We could always pull it out the next time around if we really wanted, if we had a big rush for makerspace.
We could add it in different places. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is it'll use up some of the acreage from warehouses.
Mm. All
Yeah,
right.
great point.
So with makerspace, at the bottom, do we say C light manufacturing? Is that?
Yeah,
Me,
and then it
Bob?
just goes in the definitions instead of the classifications.
Mm-hmm.
What did you, how'd you phrase it, Bob? Was it just literally see light manufacturing? I thought you said something else there. Oh, you're on mute. You,
If you've got makerspace as a definition, okay, see light manufacturing under use definitions,
mm-hmm.
okay? And then you could actually take the same um, um, text and put it into light manufacturing, you know, or not. But if you make the connection between makerspace and the definitions and the light manufacturing in the use descriptions, I think you've got it.
Okay, and so do we actually have to say see light manufacturing in use table or just leave it as Amy has it? See light manufacturing.
It wouldn't hurt to have it. You know, and in the use table, you could change it from a light manufacturing to light manufacturing / makerspace.
Okay.
Would that be too much?
Would we have to list, like, we have this step table right now that has light manufacturing. I don't know if we could link them or we're gonna have to do the table again in the new bylaw for makerspace.
Well, where you have light manufacturing, you just put in a / makerspace.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know the mechanics of how that would work, or if it, you know, if that could be a simple edit in the book. I don't know.
Right.
Lori, is that pushing it too far by putting the / makerspace? Should we just leave it to the link in the definition or what's your?
Well, maybe what we could do is light manufacturing and makerspace. Because I noticed when you look in the definitions for the various uses, there are a number that are combos, like printing and publishing, data processing and record storage.
Okay. All right, does that accomplish not having to do a whole separate, whatever we were talking about before?
Well, I was thinking we're gonna have to do a separate warrant article, right, for adding this into the table?
Yes, it would be
Oh, we would?
separate. Yep.
Even though we already had the definition in there, wasn't that already planned to be in there? What Amy just showed and highlight below?
You'd have to have the definition followed by the use table showing the change and
Oh,
makerspace.
you're right, you're right.
But
you're right.
maybe you could just use this little section. You don't have to have the whole use table again.
Mhm.
It would just be this little
Line.
square,
Yeah,
right, Lori?
Yeah, let me, and Bob and I will kibbutz about how to do it.
Okay.
We'll come back next time with, this is something that hopefully works.
What I was thinking, you don't have to use the whole table. You would just,
Because if you look under home occupation, then they have letter A, home occupation is divided into the following classes, so maybe that's an option. So it could be like light manufacturing, and then it could be an A. Light manufacturing shall include makerspace, and then a definition for makerspace. Maybe that would work, Bob? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I'd have to gnaw on that for a bit.
yeah.
Because it's, if you look at some of your home occupation allowances, a lot of the makerspace items are also available as a use as a home-based occupation.
No, I'm just suggesting the way it's set up under home occupation. So they
Oh,
have the
okay.
definition for home occupation.
Yeah.
And then they have home occupation is divided into the following classes. So what I was thinking is you have the definition for light manufacturing, and then you have an A. Light manufacturing shall include makerspace, and then
Yeah.
the definition for makerspace.
Yeah, okay, I get it now. Yeah,
And-
yeah.
And then we'd
light-
have to include this.
Yeah,
And
light
then we'd
dawns on
have that
Marblehead.
definition right there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I see the light now.
all right. So that's all I had. I had a couple questions about the groundwater one. But I don't remember right now. So maybe we want to do MBTA, just I'll have to refresh where my notes are.
Okay,
Okay. So, for the other bylaws, hold on a second, let me just see. Zoning bylaw updates, what do we actually, so next week is our meeting with the the next time around is our meeting with the ZBA, is that correct?
yes. I was
Okay.
hoping tonight to talk to you a little bit more about the locations of the MBTA, to see if folks had maybe thought about where they want to include it. And I have the 4 different options. So I sent you a new option, and option number 4.
Okay, wait, but before we
last
get
week.
into that, I just want to make sure before we go to the ZBA, like, what are we going, what have we decided to continue on with? So, like, I see we have another document here that has all the planning related warrant articles, so I just want to make sure, like, some of these I don't think I'm in favor of. And I don't know if I see that, was the variances in this document? Was this our final, so is this everything together? So it's January 2nd, 24 planning related warrant articles, is that what the whole shebang is, or?
So the MBTA is not part of that, and the sign bylaw is not part of that, so I would have to include those into the overall narrative. I would like to, because the ZBA is the one who is pretty much hearing all of the groundwater protection overlay special permits for the most part, with the exception of the industrial ones. I think it would be helpful for you to get their perspective on like particularly the business uses that are triggering the special permit that really are not any sort of threat to groundwater. Like for example, hair salons. I mean, what is going to happen to the groundwater, you know?
Right, but I just think, I would like to know, is this board who sets the bylaws in favor of the bylaws that we're discussing next week? It would be nice to know, like, usually we go through and do we go through each one before we go to that step. And we do some sort of like, board sentiment, whether straw poll or whatever, on what we actually like and don't like, so that we know as a board what we're thinking. So I would like to do that, and actually I still don't, is the variance bylaw on here? I think there was I had proposed.
Oh, I think you emailed that separately. I didn't include
Oh,
that.
okay. So then the only other one outside of this is the variances. So I guess, have we covered everything else except for the groundwater and use variance bylaw? So we have, I'm just looking at the draft. Rezoning industrial district, so we covered that. Hold on, I'd like to get the watermark out off of this. How do I remove a watermark? Or do we have a version that doesn't have a watermark on it?
I don't believe so. The sign bylaw doesn't have the watermark on it.
No, but I was just gonna share my screen, but I just have draft on the cover of my
Mhm.
as a watermark, so it's hard to see. Oh, well, I'll just share it anyway. It doesn't matter. Okay. Also, it's in the dark mode. I don't know how to change that
Hmm.
either. You guys see my screen? It says draft.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so we did the zoning map, rezoning industrial district off Southwest Connector. What is this one? The design review.
So that one gives the design review committee the power to review signs in the downtown business district. And then it also changes the composition of the design review committee. So it loosens up the requirements. So instead of having 2 degreed architects, you only need 1.
Oh, right, yep, okay. Okay, so for board members, going back to the beginning here, for the rezoning of the industrial district, as we just looked at, it seems like we just talked through it at length. Is there any board member has had reservations about that or additional comments, or how do we feel about that as a board? It seems like the only thing left on that one is to kind of figure out what are those uses, whether they're permits, et cetera. Does that sound like that's all we're doing for that one?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see, then we have for the design review one, as Laurie just described, any issues with this one that we need to get through or comments from the board?
no,
What should we decide to do about the in town or out of town? So it has to be residents of the town
for
for the
Design
architect.
review.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Nope, it was just agreed. But did you have to live in the town? Oh, employed.
So
That's
under
good.
number 1, I put who shall be residents or employed within the town of Northborough. So
Okay.
it's right in under E1.
Okay, there, I see it. It's just behind the watermark. Okay, so any comments or any board member have any reservations about this one?
You're not.
Just give a shout if you're due and I don't see you. Okay, so then the groundwater ones, so there are 2 different ones. So or are there still 2 or is it down to 1?
There's 2. So
Okay.
there's one having to do with commercial uses.
Okay.
And then there's another one having to do with duplexes and multifamily.
Okay, all right, so this first one is about the commercial development.
So what I
Okay.
wanted to point out, in the downtown area, there are 58 non-compliant, non-conforming lots. So there are 47 non-conforming lots in the downtown business district, and then there's 11 non-conforming lots in the downtown neighborhood district. So those are lots that do not meet these super high minimum lot size requirements. So the vast majority of the lots in the district are non-conforming. And if you
And the
remember,
lot
the
size?
upsize, the mandatory upsize are typically because you're trying to accommodate a well and a septic system on the same parcel. In these districts, you're 100% sewer. So there's no well and there's no septic system. It's public water, public sewer.
So I thought that last time we talked that there was the ability to hook up to the sewer, but Millie, I thought you brought up that there were a couple of businesses that you had in mind that you actually didn't think were actually hooked up to it. It was just available. Is that true? Is that what you
Yeah,
thought?
there's some that are, it's 100% available. There's just a cost for a hookup. that some businesses, and I don't know how many of them no longer have the hookup, have not done because of, I'm guessing partially because of the cost.
So do we know how many businesses are not hooked up to sewer?
I can ask the DPW. I assume
But-
that there's minimal. Maybe there, I could include a requirement that says that you must hook up. So if you're, so you either have to have 20,000 square feet of area or 40,000 square feet, depending upon whether you're in area 2 or area 1, or you must hook up to sewer.
I mean, wouldn't it just make sense that you say that you have to anyways, because at some point then they're still non-conforming.
That might be a DPW requirement,
Yeah,
that if you have, if you're gonna develop a property and there's sewer on the street, you have to tie in the sewer. But I think that's a DPW requirement, not a zoning issue.
Oh, so we can't
So-
actually mandate that.
if you're gonna develop one, I think that's correct, but if you are going on something that's already pre-existing. So if I were
This
to
really
buy,
becomes a problem when you're trying to change the use or you're trying to expand.
Mhm,
So, you know, if you're a 2-family and you're trying to go to a 3-family, if you're a commercial use and you're trying to go to a residential use, or vice versa, you're a residential use, you're trying to go to commercial. This is when this 20,000 square feet becomes a big problem.
mhm.
And you need to get a dimensional variance from the ZBA. And those are hard to get, because as you know, you have to prove a hardship.
They're not hard to get as far as I've ever seen.
And I wouldn't want to get rid of this if they're not hooked up to sewer. Like, I feel like I'd want to keep the bylaw, but write into it that lots without sewer, you know, can be smaller than 20,000 square feet, not throw it away
I'm fine with
altogether.
that.
Yeah, I would
I'm
be
just
fine with
curious,
that as
I think
well.
It would be good to find out how many parcels are not hooked up. That might incentivize them to get hooked up.
But retroactively, you don't, it's only as you come on new, correct?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it really becomes a problem if you're trying to change something. So if you have a lot that is undeveloped and you're trying to develop it, or you're trying to convert to a
Mhm.
different use, or you're trying to expand, that's when you're being captured. So like I said, it's a disincentive to reuse and redevelopment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how does this impact groundwater? This only impacts groundwater in downtown business, not industrial or anywhere else? Or is this groundwater, is this about groundwater 3 everywhere, or what is this about? Oh, the whole overlay
Yeah.
district.
So this only, because you gotta
Commercial.
remember that the minimum lot size in the industrial district is already 60,000 square feet.
No,
So
now I'm
it's
just
not
removing the
impacted.
permit, just removing the permit is what my concern would be. It's only the commercial uses, not industrial uses.
Correct. And it's only the commercial uses that don't deal with toxic or hazardous waste. So if you have a commercial use, like for example, a gas station or a repair station, then you are still captured by the bylaw. So this is only the uses like hair salons and massage parlors. They really have no risk to groundwater, but they're being captured. So now, they're required to provide a chemical list for everything that's in their shampoo. And, in their creams that they're using to massage people with. So, and it's such small quantities that it really isn't a risk.
What about repair shops? Because repair shops are allowed by right. Business East, Business West.
Those are captured because these are, so anything that's dealing with toxic or hazardous waste still requires a special permit in groundwater, or it's a prohibited use.
How does, but if the second bylaw here crosses it out, the special permit use.
But if you look, it's only talking about, so it says commercial development as allowed per underlying zoning that does not involve as accessory uses the manufacture, storage, application, transportation, and/or disposal of toxic or hazardous materials. So there's another heading in the groundwater overlay district that deals with those other type of commercial uses. And those are definitely requiring a special permit.
Do you know what heading those are?
Yep, just give me a minute. So if you look on page 767 in area 3, it's number 5, commercial or industrial activities which involve as accessory uses the manufacture, storage, application, transportation, and/or disposal of toxic or hazardous materials. So that's a special permit use. I'm not proposing to change that. In area 2, so on page 766, it's number 6. So it's top of the page.
Okay, but we're not changing anything with area 2 anyways, right? Just area 3.
We're not changing that.
Okay, so any comments or concerns with this one?
Well, the only one would be for the first one, then if the uses are being caught, it would be for the people on sewer. Like, but Lori said she could make that change. So if you have under 20,000 and you're hooked up to sewer, then you don't have to go for special permit. But if they aren't hooked up to sewer, we just deleted our special permit section. Where would they get caught?
So what I could do is still put a special permit section for unsewered uses. So that would still require the 20,000 square feet.
Okay, so you would just bring that next time.
So
Like maybe it's leaving the same one that we have for special permit, but just changing the wording. Because we already had one that we crossed out, or that you crossed out.
Yeah, just add in that for unsewered uses.
So section 3C3.
So also it's important to note that all of the business uses except downtown business, all of them have minimum lot sizes of 20,000 square feet at least. The business south and the highway business have 40,000 square feet. Industry is 60,000 square feet. So that 20,000 square foot requirement doesn't really affect them. It only affects downtown business and downtown neighborhood. There are a few commercial uses allowed in downtown neighborhood.
What if they had a non-conforming lot and said they only had 10,000 square feet, but they were non-conforming?
Well, that's the problem.
Mhm.
They're trying to change their use or expand, then they need to get a variance.
I'm just
Because
talking
they
about
don't
business
meet the
use and
20,000 square feet, but they're on sewer. So why are we requiring them to have 20,000 square feet when they don't need a septic system?
right. I'm talking about business east and business west though, because it's all businesses. And I know business east, you have to have 20,000 square feet. But say there's a non-conforming lot that only has 10,000 square feet. So they would also get shot to your new special permit bylaw. Anyone under 20,000 not on sewer, whether they were downtown, business east, business west.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll have to think about the wording.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like what we're looking for is if they're not currently hooked up. Now, how do we feel about if they propose to hook themselves up? Is it something like they need to be currently hooked up?
I think so, because anyone can say, oh, sure, I'll do that and not do it.
Well, then it'd be a requirement of the permit, the building permit, that they hook up. If
Yeah.
it says in the bylaw that they have to do X, Y, and Z, then they would have to hook up.
And,
So then
and-
they
and
get no building permit.
But I
It-
haven't written the language yet, so once again, I'll work with Bob to get that right.
if I may, when it comes to issuing the building permit, it's both in the zoning bylaws and it's also in the state building code. I cannot issue a permit unless I have proof and verification that they're going to either comply with Title V, or they're going to hook up to municipal sewer.
Mhm.
And they need to do that and make that decision and commit to it right away.
Okay.
Otherwise, they can't get a building permit.
In this case, we wouldn't even want Title V, because if they're under 20,000 square feet, then they have to be on sewer.
I mean, you'd have to see that in their design or site engineering, right? Whether they're hooked up to sewer or whether they have a septic.
That's gonna be coming in at the very, very beginning of the project.
Yeah,
Most likely, it's gonna come under some sort of site plan review or site plan
Yeah.
approval before it even gets to a building permit application.
yeah.
Yeah, we've seen in the past, though, it's probably unusual, like I think Lyman Street had this, where they didn't know which way it was gonna go, if there'd be the option to hook up to sewer based on the Bartlett Street warehouse, or if they had to come up with something different. So I think I don't know, I'm sure they had to pick a path, to your point. Okay, are there any other comments or thoughts on this one? Okay, so it sounds like we're looking at, Bill, did you have something? I thought I heard you at one point.
Nope.
No, okay. The unsewered, or if they're not hooked up to sewer, what happens there? And then otherwise, there were no issue, Amy, there was no issue with the special permit item that you brought up that needs,
No, it sounds like it's being caught somewhere else. Number
Okay.
5.
okay, all right. So I think that will help that one. And then for this one, let's see. And the point of this one is,
So I updated the rationale under the residential one. So right now, the only problems are for 3 and 4 unit multifamily dwellings, where they're allowed in the downtown business and downtown neighborhood districts. So currently, the DB district requires lot sizes of 13,500 square feet for a 3 unit multifamily structure and 17,000 square feet for a 4 unit multifamily structure. The downtown neighborhood district requires lot sizes of 14,500 square feet for a 3 unit multifamily structure and 19,000 square feet for a 4 unit multifamily structure. So the lot sizes for larger multifamily developments exceeds 20,000 square feet. So it's really only the 3 and 4 units that are being negatively impacted by the 20,000 square foot mandatory upsize. And it's only in those two districts. So we're only talking about downtown business and downtown neighborhood. And once again, those areas are sewered. So we really don't need it to be 20,000 square feet.
Okay, but same issue, I guess. How do we know is it always required that a dwelling is hooked? No, it's not always required to hook up to sewer because not all the neighborhoods even have that. So is
So
it,
I
do we
can
know
add
whether-
a similar language that says that you have to be hooked up to sewer, or you have to meet the minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet. So I can do the same thing here.
Okay. If you meet the minimum lot size. But you don't, you then, wait, you then need to get your special permit because the problem is gonna be. If you don't, if you aren't hooked up to sewer, you should get the groundwater special permit, correct?
Correct. So
Okay.
if you are not hooked up to sewer, you need to have 20,000 square feet of area. And you need to meet the septic system requirement.
But you
So
also
that would
need
be
to-
a special permit. If you are hooked up to sewer, then you just have to meet the impervious requirements. And it would be a by right use. So I think
Okay,
that's
but
what
wait,
we agreed to.
for this one and the last one, if you aren't hooked up to sewer and. If you aren't hooked up to sewer, you still need to
Special
meet,
permit.
you still need a groundwater special permit.
Yep, and you need to meet the 20,000 square foot
And the
minimum
20,000.
lot size
Okay,
requirement.
but
Or
the
you
way that it's
request a
processed,
waiver. Or you're
So I'll have
saying
to
waiver.
reword it.
okay.
So
So the way we have it now isn't necessarily worded that way, but when we correct it, or not correct it, but when we edit it, you will have to get that permit should you not be hooked up to sewer.
correct.
Okay. Okay, so same for both.
Yep.
Okay, any comments?
Can they get a waiver if they're not hooked up to sewer and they haven't met the requirements? Don't they get a waiver? I
It
mean,
would have to be a variance.
Yeah, how'd you
right,
get a waiver?
but that's what people have been doing.
Getting a
how-
waiver?
How do you avoid that?
Well, if everybody's getting a variance, then there's something wrong with that. So either you need to loosen up the requirements for the people so they don't need to get a variance, or you need to tighten up the grant of variances. But right now, what we're trying to do, so this is the downtown area which people want to redevelop and revitalize. So if you want to redevelop and revitalize, this only negatively impacts the downtown area. So you're creating a roadblock, a significant roadblock to that revitalization. So you either want to revitalize or you don't. If you want to revitalize, you need to remove the roadblocks to encourage the revitalization.
Right, I guess what I'm asking is, and I agree with that, but let's say somebody has a smaller lot, not the required amount, but they don't want to hook in to town sewer because of whatever the cost is, or there's already an existing sewer or something there. I mean, can you not allow them to apply for a variance? Is there such a thing as says, you have to do this or this, no variance is accepted?
Well, this doesn't say that you can't get a variance, but I would frown upon getting a variance. I mean, because
Right.
they have the power to rectify the situation by hooking into sewer, which goes right in front of their houses. So if they want to expand or change the use, then they should hook into the sewer. If they don't
Right,
want to
and-
hook
yeah.
into the sewer, then
Yeah,
they'd
well,
have to go get special approval from the ZBA.
But so Millie, I see what you're saying, but don't they need a special permit? You can't get a variance from needing the special permit. If you don't have the space, if you don't have the right, whatever, or if you're not hooked in a sewer, you can't get the groundwater special permit you need. So we're saying we're not eliminating the groundwater special permit, totally. We're only eliminating it in the case where you're hooked up to sewer. Right?
Where you can.
Correct.
Okay, so-
I guess what I'm asking is, what is the incentive for somebody to, what is the cost of hooking up into the sewer?
I think it varies depending upon what your business is or what you're doing. You know, like if you're doing a multifamily, I believe the sewer hookup depends on the number of units.
Okay. I'm just wondering if that presents itself as a disincentive or a hardship. Which is sometimes what people present when they're looking for a variance.
It can't be a hardship. Like, it's supposed to be a hardship if you were the only one that was affected by this. But if everybody else could hook up, then you're not the only one affected by it. Like, financial reasons aren't supposed to be a hardship.
I know.
And I don't want to, I do want the downtown to be redeveloped, but not at the point of hurting our groundwater, which is why if they don't hook up, they shouldn't get the variance. Like,
I agree.
But wait, if they don't hook up, they don't get the special permit. So you can't get a variance from a special permit, right? You can't like say, I don't want to get the special permit, I'm gonna apply for a variance. It's not, at that point, it's not about the square feet. So there's no dimensional variance that'll help you. If you're not hooked up to sewer, you
Okay.
trigger the groundwater special permit.
So right now, the way it's worded is that it says that you need to have a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet in order to do these particular uses.
Mhm.
So you can't do a multifamily use if you have less than 20,000 square feet. You need a variance. So it's more than, so what it's saying is that if you want to do a multifamily and you have 20,000 square feet, it's a special permit and you have to meet these requirements. So if you don't have 20,000 square feet, then it's a variance and a special permit. So you want to
Right.
do a multifamily, you need to get a variance for dimension because you don't have 20,000 square feet. And then you also need a special permit.
Right.
So what I was initially proposing is that you're just eliminating the 20,000 square foot requirement because we're going to make the assumption that everybody's on sewer because the sewer is existing in the street anyway, so they can easily hook up. They just have to pay the fee.
Yeah.
So, so then you don't have to get a variance if you don't have 20,000 square feet. And you also don't need to get a special permit for
Oh,
doing
okay.
the use.
All right, I get it.
But if you're not hooked up to sewer and it's not in your plan to do so,
Right.
are you not eligible or it kicks off special permit?
I have to write it. I mean,
Yeah.
how would you want me to do it? So if you don't have 20,000 square feet and you're on septic, how do you want me to do it? Do you want me to make it a variance situation or a special permit situation?
Well, it'd have to be a special permit in that case, because
Yeah.
it's not about the 20,000 square feet, it's about the septic system.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want it to be a special permit, is that what you said?
Well, I guess, I don't know, I'm asking, so for the board, I guess, are the options either you're not eligible until you're on sewer, period, special permit or not, or you need to get the groundwater special permit as an alternate path. Do we want to give them an alternate path with a special permit, or do we want to say, like, what if they have 19,000 square feet, but they're not hooked up to they're on septic? Would we want to
And they're
give them
doing a
special?
hair salon, which once again, I mean, I don't really see the danger in shampoo, going down the drain.
No, but I
Um,
feel like that's gonna be hard to split, like, do we want it, so if the reason you don't need a groundwater permit in my mind is because you're hooked up to sewer and you had made the case that they're not related. Like, there's no way those two are gonna get intermingled. Where I get
Right.
nervous is where they're not hooked up to sewer and then there is a septic system and there is the impossible intermingling, regardless if they're a hair salon or whatever they are.
I would just like to find out how many properties we're actually talking about.
That are not hooked up.
Yeah,
Okay, I will research that.
Yeah, I agree with Millie. I mean, if we're talking about 1 or 2 properties, that's one thing. If we're talking about 30, that's a whole different story.
But then do you let the person, it also depends on their use. So even if it's 1 or 2, but they end up being a poor use, do we not want them, on sewer? Like, I know when I was looking into duplexes years ago, I think it was Ashland, it was like, if you're not on sewer, no duplex. Like, it wasn't give and take. You're either on it and you get what you need or you don't. And I guess maybe then they had to go for a variance. Because
I
it gets
certainly think
tricky.
any new build should have to be hooked up. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking of the, either an expansion of a continuing, an existing use or just current properties now that, let's say they get sold or something.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to consider here is that we're talking about somebody going from 20,000 square feet to 4,000 square feet. So they're going to have to do some type of building at that point, right? Some type of change to the building structure. So at that point, you catch them and you say, okay, well, you need to connect to sewer.
Right, but there has to be in the bylaw that makes them do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So then in that case,
But that's where the catch is, right? Because
Yeah.
they're making a change to get to that 4,000 square foot.
okay.
Yeah, this is a commercial development
Mm-hmm.
that's
Well, then,
triggering.
but then we get down to the multifamily one. It seems like a similar problem.
Yeah, it's residential development.
Okay.
So it
So,
would be like an expansion. So say you want to do a large addition. Right now you have a 2-family, you want to go to a 3-family. That would be triggered.
okay. So it sounds like as a board, do we want to say you need to connect to the sewer or bust?
I think
Or
so.
if you don't want to connect to the sewer, your alternate path is the groundwater special permit.
But the groundwater special permit, remember, has that 3 different criteria.
So the
Yeah,
way I wrote
1
it
to
is the
3.
criteria are still held. It's just that now it's enforced by the building inspector through the building permit process instead of through the ZBA.
I don't know.
And actually it says such determination to be made by the building department in conjunction with other relevant town staff. So that would be like the assistant DPW director who took over for the town engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Would that
You guys
also
have to-
include the health department? Sewer?
Well, we're gonna change the language, so now it's gonna be sewer, mandatory sewer hookup. So I'm going to take the septic disposal language and I'm gonna put that in the special permit criteria.
Bill, the only time I'm sorry, excuse me. The only time the health department would get involved with sewage disposal is if it's a private septic system. If it's hooked up to sewer, it's out of the health department's hands and it goes strictly to the DPW and the sewer
Right.
department.
Okay.
Okay. So it sounds like Originally, the whole point of the 20,000 square feet was to allow for the septic system. So if we say you must be hooked up to the sewer, what, doesn't it change this almost? Or does this actually change practically the entire bylaw a little bit, or not really? It's just a tweak.
It would just be a tweak. I am gonna have to reconfigure it though. So what I was proposing is not what was discussed tonight. So I'm gonna have to change the verbiage to gel with what we're discussing now.
Okay. So if you are, so getting back to Amy's point, if you're non-conforming and you have 10,000 square feet and you are not gonna hook up to sewer, you have no options, period. Is that true? Is that what our bylaw would ultimately be?
Are you asking me or the
Yeah,
board?
no, you, sorry, Laurie, you actually, sorry, you, the way that you'd write it.
I'm sorry, I got a dog barking in the background. Can you just repeat that?
Sure. So to Amy's point, if you are non-conforming and you had 10,000 square feet and you said, I'm not gonna hook up to sewer, you have no option then? There's nothing, you don't get a permit otherwise, you couldn't even get a variance really because it's not about your dimension, it's about the sewer. So there's no like groundwater special permit you could get in that case. Do you just have no options?
So the circumstance with 78 West Main is they needed a special permit because they were going from a commercial use to a multifamily use. So they needed a multifamily special permit for the underlying district. They needed a groundwater special permit for the multifamily use. And then they needed a dimensional variance because they didn't meet the 20,000 square foot requirement. So if they
Okay.
didn't get the dimensional variance, then they would have not been able to go forward.
But in this case, it's not about the dimensions. They don't want to hook up to sewer. If they hook up to sewer by this bylaw, they could do it. If they were at 10,000 square feet and wanted to hook up and said, we're gonna hook up to sewer, you have no problem. You're gonna be a by right use. If you are non-conforming, you have 10,000 square feet and you say, I'm not gonna hook up to sewer, you have no option. There's no special permit, there's nothing. You either hook up to sewer or that's the end.
Well, that's kind of what I'm asking you folks, what you want to do. So right now, you would be able to get a groundwater special permit for the use,
With
but
the
you
variance.
would also need a
Yeah.
use variance.
Well,
So,
it's dimensional.
so right now, with the change of the language, I could do it, I could keep that steady. So I could maintain it. If you have insufficient lot area, I could make you get a special permit as well as a use variance. I mean, a dimensional variance, or I could just require them to get a special permit.
Okay, board members, what are your thoughts on what happens if you're in that situation, you have 10,000 square feet and you don't want to hook up to sewer? Can you go for a special permit or is that the end of your road or what?
I think it's the end of the road because I don't think the special permit criteria lines up with what we're trying to do.
Right.
I agree.
Like meets the purpose and intent of this bylaw. Well, no, because you're not hooking up to sewer. Will not impair ambient groundwater quality. Well, we don't know because now you're not hooked up to sewer if your
Right.
septic fails on this small
Okay.
lot.
Okay.
So I don't know. Did 78 West Main hook up to sewer?
Yes, they were on sewer already.
Okay, so it seems like if sewer is down there,
Okay.
then this really shouldn't be a hardship. Because we're we're getting rid of this lot size, which was to protect the groundwater. We
Right,
want
I
to
agree.
keep on protecting the groundwater, so you have to hook up to sewer.
And I
Okay.
think that that's the right path.
Yeah,
Okay.
agree.
All right, so I think, Lori, does that help then? It sounds like the board just wants to preserve that protection, and that sounds to be like by way of connecting to sewer, it does what the board intends to accomplish there.
Got it.
Okay. And otherwise, it sounds like by size, you still have to meet the underlying dimensional, all the other underlying dimensional requirements. Okay,
Correct. Of the
Got it.
underlying district.
correct. Okay, I'm with you. Okay, so then for the next one, even though you crossed off 2-family in the subsection there, it actually wasn't impacted at all by this bylaw? Is that what you're saying in the rationale?
So it was impacted. So anybody who wanted to get a 2-family had to get a special permit. However, there are no zoning districts where you don't already need at least 20,000 square feet. So 2 families were not negatively impacted by the 20,000 square foot requirement because it was already a given.
Okay. So a 2-family still needs a use special permit, just not groundwater.
Correct.
Okay. Any comments on this one? So I guess, does this have the same thing with the sewer? Is that our,
Yeah, so I'll be changing the wording to clarify. So it really, the only problem that's it has to do with the 3 and the 4 families in those 2 districts.
okay. And so again, that's just tying it to the underlying district square foot. Okay. Any questions or comments on this one? If we're kind of tracking the same as the one before it?
No,
Okay. So the site design standards, this is what we just looked at with Amy. Any comments with this one? Issues? Okay. Off-street parking and loading. This is the one that had a minor change suggested by Dario. Is that the one that had that's where we did the nearest point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that makes sense to everybody to go by nearest point?
yeah,
Yep.
Okay, the makerspace we just talked about, and then I guess Lori, Amy added it to her section, but we just have to add it here to the draft, the C light manufacturing, I think, or however. Amy, you edited this one on your version, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
You-
I've been taking notes, so I have that on my handwritten version.
okay, and what are we doing with co-working space? Is this we are adding to the,
Yeah, so that is included in the MBTA bylaw.
okay, and I think we liked this one the last time we talked. Any comments or questions on this one?
No.
Okay. All right, and so then I just want to make sure we get a chance to talk about the use variances as well. My favorite of the bunch. Okay. I'm going to share my screen again. And I know I have Article 36 obviously doesn't apply here, but basically, we've talked about this before. It's just it's taking away use variances under the premise that if the town actually wanted a use, the better path is to go to town meeting and add it as a use that everybody has a chance to vote on that versus just having the ZBA, which is a non-elected board, to decide as a body of 5 that to override what the town had initially wanted in their bylaws and decide by their own right, by their own decision that use should actually be allowed. And I think I made a little joke earlier, probably wasn't appropriate, but that I don't feel like we do actually look at the true criteria for this, like it's supposed to be about just with the soil, three things specifically, the soil, topography, whatever else, the size, or something else, and it has to be unique to your lot, and it has to be, like, there's very specific criteria, and I can't think of the last time I've heard that seriously evaluated. I hear all sorts of crazy other things evaluated, so I just don't think we execute it properly, and I think it's, as we try to revitalize downtown and do different things, if you always have use variances at your fingertips, you never get what you actually want, and it should be up to the town. So I don't know, that's my plea. I don't know how the board feels. I'm not gonna, it's a board decision, so just because I feel strongly, it doesn't mean you guys have to, so I'm open to your thoughts and comments.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, as do I.
Melly, what do you think?
I mean, I guess I agree. I do have some concerns about, the opportunities that might come up with the use that we hadn't yet thought of, but again, maybe that's something that has to go to town meeting to decide. One of the things that comes to mind, I don't know if we have it, I don't think we have it written in our uses anywhere, is some of the temporary pop-up businesses that are pretty popular. We don't really have a criteria for those.
But so in a use variance though, you couldn't like, is it all about a use that already exists, but it is a no? And you want to say you want to have it in that district, or you can't just like make up a brand new use and get a variance on something not even in the bylaws at all, can you, Laurie?
Yeah, I mean, so right now we have brewery in the bylaw. But if we didn't have brewery in the bylaw, then there's no mechanism to allow breweries except by waiting a year for town meeting. And
But
then
could you
adding them.
actually go to the ZBA and say, you don't have breweries anywhere, you have no guidelines or bylaws around breweries in your whole book, but I'd like to get a variance to do breweries. Under what guidelines would you even develop your plan? Like there's no
Right.
parking spaces, stuff like that. You couldn't just like make up your own use and decide you want a variance if it's a net new use, right? Because what would you use for your guidelines?
So you could use the parking requirements from other communities. So it would be a discussion. So they go before the ZBA and then the ZBA would decide what requirements. So of course, they'd still have to go through site plan review. So that, either you or they would be going through the design that way. But as far as, parking requirements are concerned, if the parking requirements aren't specified, then typically the applicant would propose parking requirements, and then the staff would research to see if those proposed parking requirements are appropriate. So I have done that in the past.
Okay.
I guess I think that's even more dangerous. You could add your own, because then if the ZBA becomes almost like the bylaw creator of it on the fly, like you
Right.
kind of create your own little bylaw on the fly in terms of the use, the parameters. I don't know, it seems dangerous overall.
Mm-hmm.
I am just curious, how many times has this specific bylaw been turned down by town meeting?
Three? It's 2 or 3. 3?
And if it was 3, one was like a super long time ago.
Yeah, there was one ages ago, I think.
How many times it was you, Carrie, who proposed it? So we'll see how many times did you
This is
have to
my-
stand on the firing block?
This is my last shot. I don't know if the ZBA. will take this one. And it's fine if the
I mean,
people in town
oh,
don't
oh.
want it. Oh, go ahead.
Overall, I like it, I have to say. Overall, I agree. I'm just putting out the options there, the thoughts that there might be, like if I know one of the popular uses or developments now are those pop-ups, and how would they get managed?
Should add it as a definition.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's the right way to do it. And then the town gets to vote and say, oh yeah, we like that, we want that in our town. And then
Mhm.
it's not just. I don't know.
It all started and it was Judy Barrett. We went to a class. I think you were there, Carrie, or I was there. And we were talking about downtown revitalization and she talked about overlays. But she said, as long as you have the underlying district or use variances, you might not get what you want because there's a workaround.
Yeah, I agree. Either that or don't do overlays. I went to one that said, don't do them. They actually kind of are counterproductive, but that's, again, a different
Because
approach.
that's like Southwest cutoff. Now you could have half industrial and half commercial, and some might not fit well beside each other.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think, were there, oh, so I guess that leaves MBTA, so why don't we move on to that? Lori, do you want to bring up what you have there?
Yeah, so maybe I can just quickly go through the various map options. I had these all open on my computer so I could quickly go through them, and now I'm only seeing this one. So this is option number 4. And let's see if I can move this up a little. Yeah, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So this was a suggestion by our new town administrator. So of course, the O'Connell Lodge has been underutilized for a number of years, and there have been a number of problems up there in the past. So his suggestion, apparently the town of Shrewsbury has been talking about maybe including the Christmas Tree Shops Plaza within their MBTA district. So he thought that it would be reasonable to also include the O'Connell Lodge. So it could be redeveloped for something that is a higher end use than what it currently is. So of course, the O'Connell Lodge parcel is too small. It's less than 5 acres. It's a little over 2 acres. So it can't be a standalone district. So this option number 4 includes an undeveloped parcel to the south of Avalon and the O'Connell Lodge district together. And I put the square footage of those 2 parcels. So the undeveloped parcel, which really doesn't have good access, has 3.47 acres of land, 380 Southwest cutoff. So that's the O'Connell Lodge, has 2.46 acres of land. So if you're okay with including these parcels, that would give us a district of 44.43 acres. Understands that the suitability analysis has not been conducted on these 2 parcels. So it is possible that the developable land will be less than this. So the district size would be less than 44.43 acres of developable land.
Do we have to get to 50?
We have to get to 50 altogether between the two different districts, if you still want to do 2.
Oh, wait, so this brings, what's the other part? What's the balance of this then? Where are we getting our other 6?
So we had talked about the downtown area.
Oh, okay.
Do you folks have any comments about?
Would they have
This
to run
option?
sewer to the O'Connell Lodge?
The O'Connell Lodge is not on sewer.
Right.
Now, one of the benefits is that the Christmas tree shops are on sewer. So hooking into the sewer would not be a huge lift. It's just a matter of hooking into the sewer line in the town of Shrewsbury.
But
So
yeah,
that
would
would be a
Shrewsbury allow it?
discussion. I'm sorry?
I heard in the past Shrewsbury would not allow it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be definitely most likely the job of the town administrator to see if he could convince the town of Shrewsbury to allow us to hook up.
Would our
So,
town allow it to be built with a septic system? Because their septic has failed, right?
Their septic is currently working. So the Motel 6, their septic system has failed. So they are not occupied at present.
I thought
The
the JJ
O'Connell Lodge
Rourke-
is still occupied.
What about the restaurant next to it? Was that also, does that sewer work? I thought that was.
The restaurant and the hotel share the same system.
Mhm.
The
And they
system
didn't
is
fail?
currently working for the hotel. The sewer system or septic system cannot handle both the restaurant and the hotel at the same time.
Right.
The hotel is, the restaurant has been closed for a variety of other reasons for the past 6 years. That is unrelated to any sewer or septic issue.
hmm.
What is the other parcel? Is that the one with the catering? The house
This
on the
one-
corner?
This one is undeveloped.
On- Is it where the access ramp is? I'm just
Yeah,
trying to
pretty
picture it.
much. Pretty much this is, so they have a little river down here.
Mhm.
And this is the on-ramp for Route 9.
So would
So
that,
I'm not exactly sure whether they've tried to get curb cut permit in the past from Mass DOT and been denied. I don't know.
but it couldn't be one long multifamily because it would have to cross Route 9?
These parcels are owned separately.
Yeah.
And based on the way the current bylaw is written, could the Econo Lodge just keep their structure as is and convert to multifamily? Or would they have to tear it down and rebuild?
So they could do a conversion. I mean, they could, you know, they might be interested in combining some of the units so that they have more than just studios. So then they would have a fewer number of units overall. But they would take down walls and combine. It could be different configurations.
So I guess my fear is that if they were gonna not tear that whole thing down and start over, I'd be more inclined than like. I just think we have so many problems over there with that building and everything else over there. My fear is that it just stays as it is and just doesn't do anything really to benefit us. It's just, I don't know. Like when I think of this bylaw, I think of if we are gonna build something, the opportunity to create these modern, new, like, little developments that we've seen presented versus like just convert a motel to apartments seems less desirable. I don't know. How does the board feel? That's just my fear.
I agree. Without a plan, you don't know what they're gonna do.
Well, like I said, it's gonna be really difficult, you know, to get development agreements from everybody. I mean, these are people who aren't necessarily interested in doing a development right now. So they would either sell their land to a developer or, you know, maybe they change their minds at some point in the future. But we still have a deadline. We still have a deadline of December 31st of this year to get this bylaw in place. So I don't think it's reasonable to expect all the property owners to give us development agreements.
No, I just think in this case, that's a risk factor for me. So, and on top of not really having a agreement, I also wonder, I'm highly skeptical of what would become there. I don't know. Millie, Bill, Anthony, thoughts
The
on that one?
question is which risk are we looking at, right? The risk of leaving it there, I think, is just as risky, if not more so, because we already know that there have been problems there,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right? So we know that's a known. So, do we take the chance of, some developer coming in and offering them some money to sell the land and then redeveloping something there? If we don't do anything with it, we know where it's going to stay and we know what it's going to do.
Right.
So, do we take the risk now to make the change and give somebody an option?
Yeah, I think if anything happens, the properties were gonna be improved than what's there today.
Okay. Millie, you feel that way? Amy?
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know. Didn't you just say, Carrie, if it's the same person, he could just finagle more rooms there, so he hits his, how many he would get, 36.9. He'd get 40 units there. I don't know, how many units are there right now?
I don't know.
Well, he'd have to take stuff down in order to make, right now, if you think of a hotel room, there's no kitchen, right? So he's got to take down rooms. So he'd be losing rooms, not gaining any, unless he builds up. And if he builds up,
Right.
then then he comes in front of site, or design review.
Lori, for these developments, you can't do like those community type properties where you only have one kitchen and you have like just rooms attached to the kitchen. Everyone has to have their separate bathroom and kitchen and things like that. Is that true for these developments?
Well, I mean, if you're doing like a rooming house, I suppose you could share, but that's not the way the hotel is currently set up. So
That's
I
true.
believe every room has its own bathroom,
Oh, okay. Well, bathroom,
but they
but
don't have kitchens.
yeah. I mean, I guess, Bill, you make a good point that it's no worse than we have now.
And I guess it would come in front of design review and in front of, it would be part of the bylaw where they have to meet the criteria in the multifamily bylaw.
Okay, so, and wait, why did the town administrator want us to look at this? Was it he wanted to make a play to clean that up, or he just?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep. Yeah, that's long and short of it. It's definitely recognized that there are a lot of legal problems over there,
mhm,
nuisance complaints and the like. So, that was his suggestion to clean up the property.
okay, and then what are the, the other 6 acres for this one, what were the 6 acres proposed for downtown again?
All right. So this is, we go back to our downtown area. And we have talked about all different sorts of configurations here. So the parcels are all listed here. So if you remember, this parcel is 13.35 acres. Then we had a little presentation from the property owner. He wanted to add these 2 little properties abutting the Assabet River. So those are the 0.39 and 0.34 acres. Then we have 56 Hudson. That is 1.71 acres. We have the Harvey property, 10 acres. We have Center Drive, 1.92 acres. And we have the Town Hall property, 1.92 acres. So we've been talking about all different configurations of these parcels. So I'm looking for guidance from you.
Okay, board thoughts on this?
So we just need to come up with what, say 8 acres just to be safe, or 10?
Yeah, I mean, to be safe, because remember, there is some excluded land. So out of the ones that were analyzed, so these are the starred parcels. There was 2.84 acres of excluded land.
So if we did the Harvey and the town hall,
I would do 3 acres of Harvey, the town hall, Center Drive.
so maybe
Mhm.
draw a line from east to west, just north of Center Road. And then come down Main Street on the other side. Make that circle.
Even 2226 Hudson is 0.63. And that's already has 8 houses on it, I think, 8 or 10. Oh, and I would include, if it was, I'd include 56 Hudson too. So I'd do the 1.71 of 56 Hudson, 3 acres of Harvey, Town Hall, Center Drive. And if we needed more space, maybe 22 Hudson Street.
So how much of that is already something we haven't developed or have property, residents or inhabitants in? How much of that would be new?
3 acres of Harvey
That's it?
and the town hall when they go into the new town hall.
If they go into the new town hall.
Oh, they got them.
Are you on that committee, Bill? Who's on the town hall
I'm the
committee?
chairman. I'm the
Oh.
chairman of that committee. If,
I don't see any
Um,
other option.
oh, there are other options. But,
All right. But there's an
but I
opportunity
mean, the
there
point
anyway.
is, right, there's an opportunity there, but I don't want to lock us in either, right? You know, the point of this is to give us land to build on.
Right.
So including Center Drive doesn't give us anything to build on,
I agree.
right? Even the town hall isn't a guaranteed somewhere to build on. Even Harvey isn't a guaranteed to build on, to be honest, right? If we're looking for land to build on, maybe we need to start the circle, the north end up at that, the southern part of that 13 acres up on the top.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so where can we build? Is it really just across the street at the Hudson property? That's the only place we have that we actually could build on at this point?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the only open spot. Everything
there's
else
3
has
acres of
housing or
Harvey.
has buildings. Well, but that's still Harvey, right? That's still up to Harvey to do something with. Again, if we want to build something and we want people in our downtown, we've got to have an open spot.
Right.
As a
But
board
my
member, I
concern-
wouldn't do Harvey and Hudson.
No, I wouldn't do Harvey at all if we can help it. But my biggest issue is we can't do all 13 acres of that big
Mhm.
star that she's hovering over, because that's too many units coming out onto that road.
Well, didn't we determine, or they determined that they've only got 3 acres that they're gonna develop because everything else is too hilly?
Right, and so I would want to limit the overlay to that 3 acres or maybe 4 acres, right? Don't include the rest of it, because if somebody comes in with some money and says, "Oh, we want to do the whole thing now,"
Because we could put 50 houses in an acre. Yeah.
and we have
That makes it
no say.
worthwhile.
So that's
But
why
I
I'm
do
trying to
like that
limit it.
piece that you're talking about, Bill. I like that because it has the ability to actually build, and I think we need to have a place for that to have more of a vibrant opportunities in downtown.
So so regardless of, either we need to pick Harvey or Hudson in this case, and then we still do that scoop around with Center Drive, 56 Hudson and Town Hall. Is that what we still would do over there?
Well,
Thing is, you need 5 acres. So if you do 3
Right.
acres of Hudson, now what are you connecting to?
Oh, right.
Right,
have
so
to
you come,
decide.
you come across the street because they wanted to build all the way down to Assabet, right? That's still connecting.
Mm-hmm.
So you do 3 plus what are the other two? 1.71.
So you do the 4 from the northern section, you do the 3 from the southern. And then whatever we need to, maybe we move over into Harvey to get us what we need.
Yeah. I don't know.
And we only need 7, or like I said, 10 at the most.
Wait, the one where you're over right now, is that Harvey, Lori, the one with the red star?
That's 56 Hudson.
Oh, okay, and 56 Hudson's 1.71, and right next to it, that little block, what was that one?
These two
Mm.
tiny ones.
Yeah.
Are 0.39 and 0.34.
Oh, they're really small, okay.
Oh,
So that was gonna be the pocket park, if you remember, and then some parking spaces. And the
Thing is,
canoe
though,
launch.
we automatically give him this MBTA. There's no promise of the pocket park or the kayak launch.
Well,
There's no-
remember the site plan requirements mandate that he provide open space.
Mm-hmm.
So that can all be negotiated. He
So
can't-
why, okay,
He can't really do anything because of the Assabet River. So there's a 200-foot Rivers Protection Act buffer, which in the first 100 feet is a no touch buffer. And then the second 100 feet is you can touch, but with mitigation. So these parcels are largely undevelopable.
except for the park?
Yeah.
What if why are we picking 3 for Hudson? Can we just do 4? Is there a reason we picked, he said he could only develop 3, like if we just bump that up to 4, add the 2 little squares across the street, 56 Hudson plus that little 0.39 and 0.34, and then add the Center Drive isn't enough with Town Hall. It's not enough it's only 1.92 plus 1.92, so it doesn't equal to 5. Is that what we're saying? Is that what our problem is? Yes.
You could get really close with Town Hall, Center Drive, and then there's a parcel 2226 Hudson Street next door is 0.63. So that gets you to 4.47. And then there's a little house next door.
Right,
that
but all that
has-
is not developable. That doesn't give us any people in downtown.
No, but I'm just saying to make up the balance, if we only did, if we did the Hudson Street one and we did whatever, the Hudson Street plus the 2 across the street, without having to cut into Harvey, you could, since Harvey's not developable either, according to our logic, then it did what, if we just pick Center Drive and Town Hall, at least Town Hall could be something. There is an option of who knows what it'll be if we even leave Town Hall, but that's at least an option to do something there. A possibility, right?
Right. And then it stinks if we don't add it in and we leave Town Hall. And then we're not going to let them develop it.
I mean, the land's still developable, right? Whether it's part of MBTA or not. I mean, we're
Right.
only zoning. We're not developing. So somebody could still come in with the site plan and develop that land. There's
Right,
nothing
but we're
stopping
trying to
them.
give incentives, like, I don't know, if you do 4 acres of the Hudson Street, that's 60 units. And then, I don't know, I've just heard from a lot of people with the schools there, I don't know what school it's going into. But I know, we should hear from them.
Well, I was just trying to avoid Hudson and Harvey. In my mind, and I don't know why I think this, but I feel like they're both the biggest of the bunch, and I'd rather just pick one or the other versus both of those, because that seemed like I do like the fact if Harvey were to spill out on the other side, so I like the option, how we had two ways to get out of there. But
Mhm.
if we are truly trying to do somewhere developable, then Harvey would be well, forgetting about what's developable, Harvey would probably be my first choice. But if the board wants to do something developable, I would just want us to pick either Harvey or Hudson across the street, but not both. I don't know how people feel about that.
I
We
mean,
have Harvey in the downtown revitalization, so it's like, now we're gonna pick Hudson Street and say, well, we're gonna throw away Harvey. Like, I would love Harvey to be developed over Hudson, because then you also get rid of the dumpsters.
yeah, I don't, I feel Hudson Street is the better one because we don't have to wait for something to happen necessarily, whereas it's not contingent upon another, you don't have to take buildings down, it's space. There's that, I believe is there a parking lot there? Is there a
Yeah,
building?
what's that gray box at the top?
It's a parking lot.
Yeah, it's a
Parking lot.
parking lot for the employees who work at 56 Hudson.
Yeah. But I mean, my preference is the Hudson Street. It's more seemingly readily available or optionable. But I guess my question is, why don't we just consider taking 5 acres out of that? And I know that the number of units is a concern, but it's no different than the number of units that would be put somewhere else across the street. You still have the same number of cars going in and out. Whether it's across the street or whether there's, 15 coming up from across the street and 60 coming from that area. The same number of units of cars, that's the concern going on to Hudson Street.
Yeah, but I think the Harvey parcel, it goes all the way to 20. Right, so
Right,
you
no.
have two exits and entrances.
Oh, I agree on that, but for me, I feel like the large Hudson properties should be, in my mind, a main piece. But, the way it's divvied up is there's little pieces across. The 2 pieces across to get to like 5 acres doesn't seem like it's as worthwhile. I don't see why it just doesn't all come from that one piece.
I'm sticking with Harvey.
What's the deal with Harvey? Did we ever hear from them? I know we're trying to get in touch with the owners or anything like that. Was there anything there at all, or?
Yeah, so the Harvey company was bought out by a multinational corporation. So they apparently are the 3rd largest private hauler in the United States. And they also serve 6 provinces in Canada. So the town administrator spoke to them and was told that they're not interested in moving unless the town can find them an industrially zoned property that will suit their needs elsewhere in Northborough.
So they'll do a land swap.
Is that even a possibility?
I think anything is. I just think it's in the downtown revitalization plan. And they didn't say no. They're willing to do a land swap. I know there's a developer interested in looking at it. Like, I definitely would not want to develop both Harvey and Hudson. So
Right.
since Harvey's in the downtown revitalization plan, my acreage would stick with Harvey. And it also connects to the other properties. And plus, I think we have tons of housing downtown. If you look at Summer Street, School Street apartments, you can count hundreds of houses down there.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough to make it a vibrant downtown. I think that's one of the things that's a bit lacking.
I think what's lacking is there's like very few places to go. Like, I think there are some places that are always busy because they're popular, but I think The rest of it is Cumberland Farms, mobile, gas stations, convenience stores. Like, even if we put in 60 houses there,
But
where
they
are they
don't,
gonna go? They're gonna walk to
They-
CVS.
they don't, you're right, that's the thing is, for me, it's there's nowhere, there's nothing to walk to, nowhere to walk from.
What about, is there any hope of a land swap with the Whitney Street? Or would that be a disaster?
Well, right now well, it depends on how the town purchases it. If the town purchases it with CPA funds, then it has to be permanently protected open space. It depending upon which pots of money. If there's an affordable housing pot of money put towards the purchase, then it could be permanently protected open space and affordable housing. The only way it could be swapped, like the dumpsters to Whitney Street, is if the town bought it through appropriation. So not with CPA funds.
But the town hasn't done a look through too to see what other lands they own. Because there are a bunch of town-owned properties, you know. But I haven't gone through the GIS map, but
And they may even be willing to, but my argument is that this property is worth way more as a mixed use property than it is for dumpster storage. So, industrially zoned property, if we could turn them on to a parcel that meets their needs, is the proper size, that's privately owned, then maybe they'd be willing to buy it themselves and then sell this to a developer and make money off of the sale because it's more valuable for mixed use.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony, you've been quiet. Any thoughts from you on this one?
Well, I think I'm kind of leaning towards Harvey, Center Street, Town Hall. But at the same time, even with Harvey, I don't know if I'd want to allocate the whole parcel for it.
you could do 3 acres and connect to Center Drive, the Town Hall, and the other property, and 56 Hudson.
But is anyone gonna wanna develop 3 acres out of 10?
No, they could develop the whole thing as mixed use, but 3 acres would give 45 units. So they can still develop the rest of the property.
Yeah, but
Yes.
as you know, on those things, the residential part comes in last.
The developer I talked with wasn't looking to do a lot of housing. They were looking to do mixed use. And the first comment to me was, what would you think about 8 to 10 townhouses? They weren't looking for 45, 60 units. They said they were more into mixed use than they were into housing. But I mean, that could change. But it wasn't driving what they wanted to do.
Mm.
Right, but we could still make all 10 acres available, right? Just because we do an overlay doesn't mean that they can't do mixed use.
But that opens up 150 units downtown. I think that's a lot.
One thing that I wanted to point out is the portion, so the Route 20 portion of the Harvey property is zoned for MSR. And if you look at the downtown revitalization plan, what was discussed is making this some sort of commercial use, like a restaurant overlooking the Assabet River. But restaurant is not an allowed use in the MSR district. So that would be impossible.
But I think with the downtown revitalization, if you had a developer that came in and wanted to do what we wanted to do, like with 2 restaurants and a walking trail and some mixed use, I think could change the zoning.
But if they're not gonna come. See, that's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Developers aren't gonna come if they have to wait a year to go to town meeting on a maybe. They
Yeah.
will have already gone to another town. So if you want a restaurant here, then it's important to zone it for that use currently. You don't want to make it hard for the development community because they just won't come.
Right, but it was developing it as a commercial restaurant. It wasn't even on our agenda for tonight.
No, but if it were included, if this portion were included in the MBTA, then they would be able to develop a restaurant there.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have to.
No,
Yeah.
no, they wouldn't have to. I mean, we can't make them do it
Right. So
regardless
it'd
of what
be
the zoning
150
is.
apartments, because apartments is where the money's at, but it also taxes our residents.
But
Apartments-
remember, we put the height incentive, so we limited it to 3-story buildings if they're doing exclusively multifamily. And then if they want to do 4-story buildings, then they would need to have some sort of mixed use. So it has to be horizontal or vertical mixed use.
But they could get 150 units on it if we gave all 10 acres.
I'm just saying that if you want some sort of commercial use, then the MSR district is not going to give you that.
Yeah, I know that.
So what you would be doing is by not including this portion within the MSR district, you would ensure that you would get more residential. Because that's pretty much all you can do in the MSR. I mean, there's a handful of other uses like bed and breakfast or dental office or a funeral home, and that's pretty much your options. Other than that is residential.
So what about Olive Harvey and Town Hall? I mean, we can include
I'm
Center
sticking to 3
Drive,
to
sure,
5
but
acres.
You were thinking what, Aim?
I'm not gonna budge. I'm only thinking 3 to 5 acres. I just, even with the master plan implementation committee, we said we had to come to a consensus with the town of how much housing they want versus how much they want viability downtown. Like, there was a lot of contention on how much housing. And
Well,
that,
just
when I ran for
remember,
planning board, the
portion-
biggest thing was housing.
portion of the Harvey property is undevelopable because of the Assabet River and the wetlands here.
Right, but nobody's done the plan to show how much it's actually developable, how many apartments you'd get. I just, when you went to the original master plan, it was, all the surveys were, don't want high density. We don't want high density. So I can't, in my mind, I ran to represent the residents, so I can't put all 10 acres in with the chance that it becomes 150 apartments downtown. I'd be okay with 3 acres of it and a couple of the other parcels, but I really feel strongly that I ran for this office to represent the residents, and I'm not gonna go against it.
Bill, you had something there? Were you gonna say something?
nope.
All right, so we have, and this is one option to get that extra 6, and obviously we're talking about a way to get grants for downtown and whatnot. Other than the option 4, Lori, are there any other options for consideration? That's the other balance of this side of it. Maybe we take a break from this side and settle on the,
Well, of course, you know, the initial conversation was the ball fields. So that's the Southwest Connector.
Okay,
So this is what that looks like. 22.79 acres of developable land for these two parcels.
okay. And then, oh, okay, you want to talk about this one? And how does the board feel about this one versus the other option with the Avalon Econo Lodge mix?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of this one for MBTA.
Bill, Millie, Amy, what are your thoughts on this one?
I don't mind this one as much, but I actually kind of like the Econo Lodge option if that involves sort of that cleanup and getting rid of a problem.
Bill, what do you
Yeah,
think?
this one is the ball field, right?
Yeah.
And when they came in front of us, so, I mean, I like this one only because, you know, Route 20 can handle the traffic. I know it's a lot of acreage, and if they build it all out, you know, that's a lot of people coming into Northborough. You know,
Mhm.
one of the things that we have to keep in mind, though, is that these are taxpayers, right? These are, you know, yes, there'll be a lot of people coming in. There's a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built out, but there's also additional tax money coming in to do that,
Do you like this one better
right?
than
And to
the
pay
Econo
for that.
Lodge?
No, I like the Econo Lodge idea. I like getting rid of that, you know, that issue, if you
Yeah.
will. You know, but, you know, adding some acreage from here, it doesn't give us what we want in downtown. It doesn't give us any additional people walking to places downtown. And I think it makes it harder for businesses to justify being in downtown. But, you know, this is what it's a good option too.
Okay. Amy, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, with the Econo Lodge, we're already up to 44 acres, so I think we find the other 10 downtown, so then we could go for grants if we want them.
Absolutely.
All right, and Lori, was there one more, or is this?
No, the other one, the option number 3 was just Avalon.
Oh, okay. All right, so it sounds like overall the board likes the option with Econo Lodge. Okay, so then flipping back, so that this remains then our true issue is these last 6 acres or whatever, however we want to do it, 6 to 10 or. So it seems like a little bit of an impasse is whether it sounds like don't want to do both for the most part. So do we do all of Harvey? If we pick Harvey, do we do all or half of it? Well, first of all, is anybody of the mindset you want to do both Harvey and Hudson? Is there anybody on the board that thinks both? Or are we gravitating to one or the other?
Well, I think if you do both, that gets into Amy's issue of, you know, having 10 acres of
Right,
open
right.
area to build, right?
Right.
So if we're going to choose 10 acres, then we might as well do Harvey. But
Okay.
if we're not going to do 10 acres, then I don't know.
Okay. All right, then we get into the issue. The next one is whether or not we do all of Harvey or a portion of Harvey. Amy, you're pretty strong on this one. Other board thoughts on this one?
I think a portion at the most,
Okay.
but I still
agree
like
with that.
Hudson.
Okay, so Millie's still a fan of Hudson, but if we're
Yep.
going Harvey, a portion, Anthony or Bill, what are your thoughts?
So I'm thinking just Harvey and some carve out, not the whole parcel.
Okay, Bill, what are you thinking?
Yeah. My question to Lori is, if we were to do a section in downtown that's already built out, what does that do for our grant options?
Well,
Does it,
it limits them. You know, in the town of Millbury, I was able to get a $1.2 million grant from MassWorks because there was a development that was going through the permitting process. If I remember correctly, it's 49 units, multifamily. And so they partnered with me on the application. So the developer partnered with me and provided information about the level of investment that they were making into the downtown. Because mass development likes to see private-public partnerships. So that's how I got the grant. And that was the biggest grant that I got.
Mhm.
So the total cost was somewhere around 2.5 million. So then I got some smaller grants as well, but the MassWorks was the lion's share. So if there were to be a development proposal, that would definitely help secure grant money. There are some negatives to Northborough versus Millbury. Like Millbury's town center had an environmental justice population within it, which is a feather in the cap for getting grants. Town of Northborough does not. Town of Northborough is a wealthier community. So already Northborough is at a disadvantage for grants for those reasons.
okay. And so doing we've had a presentation now on the 5 acres on Hudson, right? So we know that somebody wants to develop that. The Harvey property, no matter how much we do of it, it's still, they'd still have to sell their property in order for anyone to build on it.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my concern.
Yeah.
If we want to get grant money to help with our downtown revitalization, we need to show that we're willing to build.
Yeah, so I feel a little bit of a struggle with that too. My only thing that I love about, not love, but really like about Harvey is I feel like I see so much more potential in that one. Like to me, this could be a really cool, like, do we take a swing at the really cool one? And then if it doesn't come to fruition, is it can then add on like we can still add on if we have a town meeting. Well, actually, yeah, if we do town meeting in April, and then we end up having a second town meeting in the fall. Like if a couple other things fall into place and we find out maybe Hudson was the way to go. Like, do we take a swing for the cooler one, or my perception of the cooler one first and then have to add on Hudson if we need to? That's my only wonder. Like, I just see so much more potential on the Harvey property. I don't know. So for Millie and Bill, you seem to like the Hudson one better. Is it just simply because it's developable? Or do you see like, when I say like cool potential, like, does that resonate with you in terms of what Harvey could be, or what do you think there?
Well, I don't think that the Hudson Street one doesn't have cool potential. I don't know.
Yeah.
It depends on what the developer has in mind. I just think it's more likely to produce a result sooner.
Yeah.
And I think that it has less encumbrances.
Mm-hmm. Bill, how about you? Because you're also a Hudson fan.
Yeah, if we're gonna, my concern is that if we were gonna do Harvey, we'd have to, I would want to do all of Harvey. And I know, Amy, you're against that, and I get that. I understand why. But just carving out, at least with the Hudson, right? We're carving it out based on the geography, right? With Harvey, we're cutting it out because we want to. And I don't know, to me, that just doesn't sit right. I see Harvey as a huge potential for downtown. But it would have to be, they would have to want to relinquish it first. And I don't see that happening until we decide. We sort of have to make the decision to say all of it before they'll go and try to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And Millie, why did you also want to cut Harvey in half?
Partly because of what, the Main Street residential zoning, the way it is right now.
Mhm.
Because it already has some restrictions in that area.
I think, Carrie, if we do, like you said, like do Harvey, but say in the fall we decide, maybe the Hudson person comes with us and they come in with their plan and they agree to build certain things and follow the plan, and Harvey's not going to work out, then maybe we change, but I don't know.
I don't know if you're gonna get a builder to come in with a plan with that type of uncertainty.
I think you would with incentives, like if we give you 15 units per acre and you agree to A, B, and C, I mean, that's what the baseball fields were gonna do.
Right, but it wasn't contingent on whether or not another deal went through. Or you're saying give them that incentive anyways?
No, I'm just saying,
Whether
like,
they get MBTA or not?
right, like say we figure out Harvey's not gonna work out, so we wanna do Hudson. And then Hudson says, sure, I'll be part of the MBTA, but I will do A, B, and C. Like I'll, do the 1 bedrooms like they were saying, or 90 units, or, the things that they had on their plan, they agree to go forth with. Like if you don't have any sort of like carrot, then there's no incentive to do some of the extras. Like, and I'm not doing it because of that. I'm just saying if it switches, we can always add people into the MBTA after anywhere in town. Say someone comes forth on another property that we've wanted to fix up and said, I'll do A, B, and C. We can always add them into the MBTA bylaw overlay.
When are we feasibly having the second town meeting? Is it, first of all, is this a
September.
made up story? Is there a real second town meeting?
No, it's in September. Is
Okay.
what they're shooting for, October, before the election in November. It's for the
Hmm.
fire station. They want funding, and they have to go to a special town meeting to get the funding to build the fire station.
Hmm.
And they also have to have a Proposition 2.5 override on, I think that has to be on the ballot in November. So they're definitely shooting for September, maybe October. I think they said the week of October 7th.
Okay, so let's play this out timeline wise. It's January. We put Plan A in place so that we have something for April town meeting. Number one, if it doesn't pass, we need the September town meeting either way, but let's pretend it passes. What we push forward passes, say we go with half Harvey. And then we have to September to like, okay, the developers know we've passed this MBTA bylaw. Like, is there a way we could sort of kind of solicit different developers and talk about what that could look like? And then by September, if there are, the Hudson people come back, or Harvey says, oh, I am interested. Then by September, we can kind of add if we need to add, or is that not enough time? I'm just thinking like,
I don't think it's enough time, because remember, the April town meeting, we're not even gonna get a response from the Attorney General's office until probably October at the earliest.
Hmm.
So I just don't think, I mean, these people are not developers. So it was easy for Trammell Crow to come in and make a commitment because that's what they do for a living. They are a large residential developer.
Right.
And these people are just property owners. So, the Harvey, they're in the business of trash. So they're not in the business of mixed use development. So they're not going to be able to commit without possibly having, a developer already on the hook. And then we're dealing with headquarters in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's unlikely that you're going to get a development agreement. So I would not make that part of the equation. I think Trammell Crow was an anomaly.
Okay, well, I guess we need to come to resolution. For me, I mean, well, first of all, I am partial to the Harvey properties because I think it has more potential. What I also am concerned about is when people see that parcel of land across the street, that big parcel of land, the competing argument's gonna be all the houses that can go in there, even if you talk about the lead rock. Oh, well, we would split that though. We're only taking 5 acres. Is that what we would do there? 5
Right,
acres?
yep.
Mhm.
So we'd split that. Yep.
So maybe it
So
wouldn't be as bad. It just depends on people's perception. When they see that and it's all cleared off, it becomes a reality. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a harder thing to pass through or
Well, that's
not.
why I think, having a map that'll actually have the overlay district on it so they can see where we're drawing the line,
Yeah.
right? That we're drawing the line through that property.
Okay, well, why don't we straw poll it so we can come to a resolution unless we want to discuss further. Do we want to talk further about it or? And then, of course, we have the hearing too. So that's another thing. Like this doesn't have to be the final, I suppose. We talk about it as a board and we say as a board, we recommend this, and then we have a public hearing. And then, maybe there's a huge outcry for one, the other, or neither, who knows? But maybe as a board, we just settle on what we like and I don't think we all agree actually, so that's okay too. And then go to the hearing and we'll finalize after that. Does that sound like
Yeah.
at least the next step,
Yep.
or else we'll argue till we die, so, okay. The option, it sounds like the options on the table are, no matter what, are we doing Center Drive, Town Hall? And, no, not necessarily, we're not
Mm-mm.
necessarily, okay, so start from the option of from Hudson Street, so if we take Hudson Street, that's 5 acres, is that what we have on the table at this point? Did we
Yep.
go up to 5? Okay. And then scoop across the street to the little pocket there and 56 Hudson.
Mhm.
Did that
Yep.
bring us to it, or did we have to do something else? No, that didn't. Well, that made it, right? 5 plus 1.71 alone covered it. Plus,
And if we have to make up any more, then that's when we come into Harvey.
Bill,
So
that's
that'd be-
doing both.
So
Remember, it has
5
to be
of Hudson.
contiguous
Right,
land.
that's
Right.
contiguous, so that's all the way across.
Wait, and
So
what's the
5
.39 and .34? Is that a part of that across the street as well?
That's these two little parcels.
Oh, yeah, okay, fine. So we have 6.71, all right, so right now I have 5 at Hudson, plus 1.71 at 56 Hudson, plus 0.39, plus 0.34, brings us to 7.44. Is that a good enough buffer
Which
for
would
it?
which would just be enough if Econo Lodge goes
Yep.
fully through.
Yep, we'd be,
But remember, there's excluded land that's part of that equation.
but I
So
thought you
these
took
two,
out, oh, go ahead,
these two little parcels were never evaluated.
okay,
So the ones with the red stars were evaluated. And when you combine all of these together, there's 2.84 acres of excluded land. So Center Drive was not evaluated, and these two little ones were not evaluated. And of the Harvey parcel, only 5 acres were evaluated.
okay. So if we were to go with the option of, if we'd have to always use Center Street and Town Hall then, is that what we're saying? No matter what, we always need that to accommodate for land plus town, oh, that doesn't make the 5, that was short the
No,
5.
not if we come down into Harvey.
Mhm.
You did Town
And-
Hall, Center Drive, 22 Hudson, and
What was 22 Hudson again?
It's right next to Center Drive. There's
Oh,
already
no, I'm
a-
sorry, what was the acres on that one, 22?
Oh, that's 0.63.
Well, we'd have to include a portion of Harvey because it has to be contiguous
Contiguous.
land.
Right.
So I need a portion of Harvey to go to the town hall and Center Drive.
Right.
Right.
So if
So I
we're already
wasn't
coming
doing-
down from the north, right, we just continue down into Harvey from the north,
Like 3
heading
acres.
south, and make up whatever acres we need there. And just make
Now
it
you're doing
one,
both.
Okay,
right,
well, some
but
members that don't
yeah.
mind doing both, so we'll do it that way. Okay, so so this is gonna change some votes then, you realize, but here we go. We're gonna do, if we say 5 out of Hudson,
5 out of Hudson.
yep, plus we come down and do 1.7, we're gonna do that pocket, even though it hasn't been evaluated. 0.39 plus 0.34 plus 1.71 is 56 Hudson. And then you have to come into Harvey for how many do we need to come in for? We don't even know really.
It's been evaluated for 5 acres.
So if we're at 7.44 though, what do we want to add? We're just using it to do the balance to make it so we
Right.
can accommodate,
Do
It's
3
maybe
acres.
3,
so
3
3 out of
acres.
Harvey, okay. So we'd be at 10.44 if we then took the 3 out of Harvey. So
Yeah,
there's
and we
option
were at-
one.
right, and then we were already at 44 with the Econo Lodge.
Yep, plus 44, so we got 50 equals a 54.44 total. Okay, that's option A. Option B is 5 from Harvey. And we go the other way, and we do center is 1.92 plus town hall is 1.92. I mean, we're at this point, we're already at 8.84. So I guess even if we could add 22 Hudson for the heck of it. And we're at 9.46. So plus the 44, we're at 53.46 with option B.
Did
And
you
that-
include 56 Hudson too?
Oh, I didn't actually know. So I guess that would be
1.71.
so 53.46 plus 1.71. We'd be at 55.17. Either way, we clear it on both options. Both options, I think, adequately clear it. We have option A and option B. So, why don't we just do a straw poll? And again, it's fine that we don't all have to agree, so don't feel bad if we don't. Bill, what do you like?
My first preference is option A, but I don't have a problem with option B.
Okay. Millie, what are you thinking?
I like option A.
Only? You're not a fan of B at all?
No, that would be obviously my second choice.
All right. You fooled us, Millie. You almost fooled us on that. Okay. Amy, how about you?
I'm option B.
Okay, no interest in option A?
No, I just feel like with the downtown revitalization, Harvey was like their #1 choice. And so how can we not include it?
Okay, Anthony, how are you feeling?
A B,
Any chance of option A?
not for now.
Okay, I'm also a B. If there were some sort of like immediate sign of like a grant, like that was pretty much like, wow, we could absolutely apply for this. It's an existing grant and some sort of opportunity, I could maybe be swayed. So it's not completely out of the picture for me for A, but I'm a heavy B for sure. So I think we have a slight majority on B, but some wiggle room on some flexibility and thinking about it if we need to, it sounds like. So maybe what we do is we go into the hearing, hear from people, maybe there's things we haven't heard or the, I don't know, I don't know if we bother to go through this one with the ZBA portion of it, but I'm open to that if we want to do that too.
I wonder if I should just continue to show this map. So for the next meeting, the joint meeting with the ZBA, I will show the Avalon Econo Lodge option and this option. And then you know, maybe if you get more feedback. You know, I hesitate to have the RKG do the analysis for the affordability if there still isn't a clear direction on
Right,
which parcels to include.
right.
What's the
Understandable.
latest we could do that? What do they need for turnaround time?
I'm not sure. I imagine it's maybe a week or so. It seemed like they were ready to pull the trigger on it. But once they do the analysis, then it's done. So this is the problem. So we already had the analysis done by Judy Barrett, and now we
Mhm.
want to add different parcels so that we're going to have to rerun the analysis, which means we're going to have to come up with more money. So I have some money, but it's pretty limited. So, you know, I don't want any more analysis done unless we're certain
Okay.
which ones we're going forward with.
Could CMRPC do the analysis? I saw they did other towns. They did Grafton's, I think.
Well, that's because they were chosen for the technical assistance.
So they can't do it with any of the hours that we had.
I can ask. I mean, obviously, we will need to rerun the analysis if you want to include parcels that have not don't have the red star, then there's going to be a cost associated with running that. I just don't want to waste any more money on heading down the wrong
Okay.
direction. And also remember, we want to submit to the state for their approval, which means we have to submit the analysis before we go to town meeting, because we want to make sure that we're good. Because there's still the question as to whether Avalon is going to count or not.
Mm-hmm.
Funny because Westboro went for 3 apartment complexes and one was their 40B and they already submitted. So if they get accepted, I couldn't see why we wouldn't be, but they don't know yet because they just submitted it, I think. Or they
Yeah,
were
I mean, the
just-
good news is that there's that whole tier of communities that had to submit by December 31st of this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they are the test case.
Yeah.
So DHCD or whatever their initials are today, they are going to decide and then we're just gonna do whatever they say, hopefully.
Okay, so if we're waiting. Okay, if the point was to really wait till the public hearing, is that too late to wait to make the decision on having the analysis?
Yeah. It's gonna be
Yeah.
tight, I would say.
I really think it's tricky to open this up to the ZBA next week. Not that, only because
Yeah.
we've been discussing it for months. And we discuss it now, we've been discussing it for probably an hour and a half tonight. And we've discussing it for months. So if we have to describe all of this from the start to a new set of 5 people, I think it would take the whole night.
Well, I think that's kind of the point of having the joint meeting, though, is to get their perspective on the zoning bylaws. Because
Impact,
they
yeah.
also, remember, they're also an enforcement authority for the zoning bylaws. Not this specific MBTA bylaw, but for many of the other things, they have an equal amount of power as the planning board on rendering decisions. So.
Yeah, I think it's fine, like, I'm okay with getting their opinion, that's not, for me, I was just more curious about the hearing as a barometer for what would actually get passed at town meeting, because if we have like 50 people come to the hearing and they're all up in arms about 56 Hudson, then we know before we go through all the hassle of it, analysis and whatever else, that we're never gonna get it passed, so we better move on. Like, that's more my thinking with the hearing versus like, it's great to get the ZBA's opinion, but the key is gonna be, what are people willing to vote? Like, what can we get passed by the public? I don't know, maybe,
Well, I think the other thing to keep in mind is that we are going to have to explain this, right? We got to explain it to the ZBA. We're going to have to explain it to the public. So maybe going in front of the ZBA will give us a good sounding board on how our explanation is sounding before we go in front of the public. I mean, we're in front of the public now,
yeah,
but
of course.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I would just wanna know, like, if we did wanna get to that hearing and just see like what happens, is it a silent response or a angry response, then is that too tight for the turnaround on the analysis? Probably.
Like I said, I'm not exactly sure how long it would take. I didn't get the impression that it would take a long time, but they did want to double check to make sure that we were solid on our parcels before they did the analysis, because we can't change our minds. I mean, we can, but then we have to pay them more money.
Now,
Right.
could they do option A and option B, or they can't?
I think they just do it once.
Right, but they could do it once and you have option A and option B, like include the whole set, because like, say Lexington went forward with 75 acres. We can include all the acres and see how much of it gets taken out just as part of the, but knowing that we're not going to include all of them in the end result.
So you want
So-
me to include all of the various Hudson Street parcels that are up for debate
And center, yeah.
and see where it goes?
Yeah, and then we can use the parcels knowing, we know in advance we're not going to use all of them, but then we can pick and choose by how many acres we get out of it.
I can
Like-
ask the question. I'm not exactly sure the format that the output comes in. So I can have that discussion with them and see if we're still gonna benefit from doing it that way. Like maybe they can break it out parcel by parcel.
Yeah, because like you said, oh no, they haven't. Judy did the analysis for 5 acres of Hudson and 14 acres of, 5 acres of Harvey and 14 acres of Hudson.
Yeah, she did the analysis on all of these, except she didn't do Center Drive and she didn't do these two little parcels here.
So if we
And
already have-
she did Avalon, but she didn't do the Econo Lodge and that other parcel.
So if we ask them to do Econo Lodge, the other parcels, Center Drive, and the other 2 little ones near 56.
Yeah, so that was my plan, is that once, once we came to a definitive, these are the parcels we're going forward with, I was gonna reach out to Judy Barrett, ask her how much it would cost to rerun the analysis to include these specific parcels, and then just pay her that money so that she can update the output to reflect the parcels as they stand today. Or whenever the decision, whenever you tell me that you guys aren't gonna change your minds.
Well, I mean, if we have to decide tonight, technically a majority has picked option B. Does anyone who picked option B think that you're gonna have your mind changed by any way, shape, or form?
No.
No.
Amy, you're pretty strong on yours. On the option A side, is there anything, Bill or Millie, that may change your mind? Like if there was a crowd that came to the hearing or anything like that, are you guys pretty strong? Bill, you actually said maybe option B is not the end of the world for you, but you're an option A fan. Like, is there anything that would sway you from option A?
Probably not. I mean, again, I don't know what the ZBA might come up with. I don't know what the public might come up with. I mean, I remember the town meeting last time where we thought that the driveway was going to be the easiest one, and I'm the one that got up there and did, because I was the new guy, and didn't end up being the easier one. So you just never know,
Yeah.
right? That somebody may come up with some issue why it doesn't work.
Millie, are you is there anything that would sway you from A?
It is a pretty strong preference for me, but to be honest with you, I don't think B is a terrible option.
Okay. So, I mean, if you truly needed where the board stands today, Lori, everyone's pretty strong where they stand, although there's some sway room. If we had to split it, it's a 3-2 split. If we want to wait though, if maybe there is for a reason or a way where they could do an analysis like Amy suggested, or, there is a way to hold until the public hearing, then great. If not, it sounds like your answer would be, at this point, a B based on the split.
Okay, and can we go through option B again? Center Drive. It's the town hall. It's, I can't remember the number here of this condo development, maybe 26?
That was 22-26 Hudson.
And then it's a portion of Harvey.
I think it was 5, it was 5 Harvey.
And then it was 56 Hudson,
56 Hudson.
and that's it.
Oops. Let me see if I come up with the same math.
Is that right?
Just double checking. Plus 1.92 plus town hall 1.92 plus the 0.63. Did I say 5518? No, 17. Yes. So it was 5 Harvey, 56 Hudson, 1.71 from 56 Hudson, 0.63 from 22 Hudson, 1.92 from Center Drive, 1.92 from Town Hall. That was it, right?
Did you want to include the 0.3 and the 0.9 just so an analysis is done on it? Like, those are the other two that weren't analyzed across from Hudson.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense actually, because then we'll have it if we do flip the other way. Don't you think? Or we can't do that anyway because we didn't check out 50. If we can't do an analysis of the whole shebang, it doesn't matter actually about that 0.39 and 0.34, but I'm not opposed to including it.
Just as part of the analysis, but 0.34 plus 0.39. I don't know. Does it matter if we include them or not? Does it help get us over?
Well, we don't need to clear, I mean, Lori, do you recommend we add them to just increase our clearance buffer or?
You know what,
Mhm.
like I said, I think the vast majority of those parcels is undevelopable, but I don't think it hurts to include them in the analysis. I don't really see a building going there. It'd probably just be parking and open space.
And
Okay,
then
but-
if it's included and we, for some reason, go with Hudson, then we'd have an analysis on those two. And we already analyzed Hudson, right?
We did, not for affordability, but for developable and,
Mhm.
Oh, so that's good at least.
okay.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like, will you just let us know, Lori, which way that goes after you hear from them, like what we have the ability to do? Okay.
I will.
Okay, so that was easy. Next, we have a bond. We have the bond for Talbot Park West project. So this is something you're waiting to hear back from Fred on, and I take it all worked out?
Yes, I'm all set now. So I provided you with a draft motion.
Okay, anything to say about this one or just the,
No, it was a site plan approval. The 20,000 bond was for earth removal purposes, just to ensure that the final grading was done properly. And that project was completed in 2010. The bond is most likely long gone, but it's still appearing on the treasurer's books. So the purpose of this motion would be to clear her books.
Any questions from the board on that one? Okay, is there a motion to release whatever remaining interest the planning board has or may have in Western Surety Company Performance Bond 700121167 dated December 13th, 2005 to provide security for the performance by Talbot Park West LLC to ensure the complete stabilization of disturbed area as set forth in the planning board site plan approval decision for 34 and 48 Talbot Road dated April 20th, 2004 relative to a 38,400 square foot warehouse distribution facility and associated improvements.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
all in favor, Bill,
Aye.
Amy,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Millie,
aye.
Kara's an aye. Okay, next we have the A&R for, is this the, remind me the address for
This
the,
is 333 and 353 Southwest Cutoff. So
Okay.
this is the ball fields. So essentially, they are interested in doing an A&R because of
do you want me to share my
the,
screen or do you have it on file there?
oh, if you could share your screen, that'd be great.
Oops. There we go. Sorry, gang. Okay, wait, there's a couple of documents. Oh, that's the check, that's the form. Okay, here's the map. Okay, can you guys see the A&R here? And probably not because it's super small, but hold on, let me see if I can close this out, make this a little bigger. Can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right, Laurie, take it away.
Okay, so right now, this is the medical office building, and this, of course, is the baseball fields. And then there's an existing house that used to be used as the clubhouse. So the desire here is to create lots 1 and lots 2. Both of them have adequate frontage on Route 20. And of course, they have sufficient area. I did speak with Marshall Gould, who is the attorney representing the property owner, about the need for easements. And the easements were actually already recorded. So they're not shown here on this A&R, but there is another document that describes the easements. And so there is a common driveway which serves both of these uses, the medical office and the baseball.
Marshall's actually on the line. I don't know if he's been holding this whole time.
Do you want to bring him on? Marshall, do you want to come on? Oops. Can you hear us, Marshall?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. I thought you were retiring.
That's what I thought, and that's what my wife says to me all the time. Exactly.
Anything you
yeah,
want to say
what we-
about this or?
Yeah, the medical building was, we entered into an agreement, the medical building, I think it was November of 22, was assigned because it was all one piece and not broken up to the current landlord of that medical building. And the rest of the property, as well as the medical building, was still all under one fee. And at the time, cross easements were done, and they were done previously and slightly revised. So at this point, we're just making it up into 2 lots because it was very confusing, in our opinion, splitting the real estate taxes. And this way, it's just clearer. And in particular, if And now it's pretty obvious that there won't be the rezoning for 3A housing on the site. So they have to think of what else they could do, and it's just easier to do it with one defined parcel instead of part of another parcel.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Okay, Lori, any issues on your part? I assume frontage and all that is all met here.
It looks good.
Okay, then if no questions, is there a motion to endorse the site plan for? now we can see-
A&R, right?
I'm sorry, motion to endorse the A&R for
The
333 Southwest Cutoff.
So moved.
Second, all in favor, Amy?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Millie?
Aye.
Carries an eye. Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen then. Other than that, we have our next planning board meeting on February 6th. It's a joint meeting with the ZBA, and Laura, you haven't met with them yet, but have you heard back from Paul or the team there if they're able to join? Does that work out for them? That was okay?
I have heard back, not from everybody, but from a majority of the members who said that they will be available to attend the planning board meeting, first meeting in February. So
Okay,
that's
great.
good.
And then, do we still have that meeting January, not the planning board, but MPIC, January 18th? Is that all set? I think you're waiting here.
Yes,
Okay,
I
great.
really hope that you folks, particularly those of you who are not on the MPIC, can attend. There's going to be a presentation by the consultant team. They're going to go over the various redevelopment scenarios, so that might actually help you with your decision making for the downtown parcels to include. And then once their question and answer period is complete, I am going to be giving a presentation on my idea for a phase 1 project. So,
Great.
so please tune in.
All right.
7 o'clock, right?
7
Thursday?
o'clock. Yes.
All right, if there's no additional business.
Can I make a plug?
Sure.
Not that anybody's listening anymore, probably at this time of night, but tomorrow night is the fire station building committee meeting. And
Oh,
it's,
great.
yeah, it's at the library in person, 7 o'clock. And this is probably the last chance for public input from the residents for the design of the fire station. So anyone who's interested, tomorrow at 7 at the library.
Oh, great. Thanks for mentioning that. Okay, any other business? All right, if no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So
I make
moved.
a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor, Bill,
Aye.
Amy,
Hi.
Anthony? Anthony?
Muted.
Aye.
He doesn't want to go.
And Millie?
Aye.
And carries an eye. All right, have a great night, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, aye.
Good
Good night.
Bye.